Chapter 157. Get up. Xiao Feng waved his sleeve. A gentle force lifted Yao Ming, who was kneeling on the ground. With a casual wave of his hand, the metal chains that bound Yao Ming fell off inch by inch. It is unexpected that I, Yao Ming, will really escape from this cage one day. Yao Ming laughed out loud after escaping from the shackles and eliminating the great worry in his heart. Even though his body was still extremely weak, his mind was extremely excited. May I know Master's name? After venting for a while, Yao Ming bowed toward Xiao Feng and asked after laughing heartily for a while. I am called Xiao Feng. Xiao Feng smiled and nodded. He was very satisfied with the respectful attitude of this newly recruited subordinate. This subordinate will never forget Master's great kindness. From now on, my 9 serene deep python tribe will only obey Master's orders. Yao Ming's eyes stared intently at Xiao Feng as he nodded solemnly. Aye, very good. Xiao Feng nodded. He swept his gaze over Yao Ming's skeleton-like body and quietly sighed in his heart. Yao Ming's frail skeletal appearance would not be of any use if he did not quickly recover. Fortunately, Xiao Feng's cultivation had continued to grow over the years. His alchemist skills had also continued to improve. He did not lack medicinal pills in his hands. Your body is currently weak, and the dou qi in your body has been exhausted. You need to recover as soon as possible. Xiao Feng flicked his finger. A bottle of medicinal pills flew out and landed in Yao Ming's hand. Consume this medicinal pill and recover. Thank you, Master. Yao Ming expressed his thanks, after which he opened his mouth and swallowed the bottle of medicinal pills. The natural yuan energy contained within the medicinal pills swiftly merged into his body. Yao Ming's body swiftly filled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. After being refined by the yellow spring for a few hundred years, Yao Ming's body might be as thin as a skeleton, but his essence was already extremely strong. That frail appearance was only due to the lack of dou qi energy. At this moment, after consuming the medicinal pills that Xiao Feng had given him, abundant energy merged into his body. His body quickly recovered. A moment later, a burly man with a strong body appeared in front of Xiao Feng. How are you? How is your recovery going? Xiao Feng felt quite satisfied when he saw Yao Ming quickly recover from his shriveled skeleton to his burly man form. He no longer looked like he would be blown away by a gust of wind. I've recovered about 50 to 60%. Yao Ming clenched his fists and felt the unprecedented abundance of energy in his body. He was overjoyed. Since that's the case, let's go. A bottle of medicinal pills was naturally unable to replenish all the energy of a dou sheng. The fact that he was able to recover 50 to 60% was probably a misconception that Yao Ming had because he had been lacking energy for a long time. According to Xiao Feng's estimation, it would be amazing if a bottle of pills could recover 20% of his strength. Please wait, my lord. Yao Ming turned around and waved his hand. He lifted up a rock from the ground and pulled out a fist-sized blood-red crystal. There seemed to be endless blood flowing within the blood-colored crystal. An indescribable life force surged within it, but it also emitted a deathly chill. It looked exceptionally strange. This is Xiao Feng raised his eyebrows. He was very surprised by this blood-red crystal. This is the underworld blood crystal. A bitter expression appeared on Yao Ming's face. Then, it was replaced by a deep hatred. These things are my life-saving treasures. Yao Xiaotian imprisoned me at the bottom of the underworld and used the underworld blood crystal to keep me alive. He wants me to suffer a fate worse than death. Yao Xiaotian. Xiao Feng was unfamiliar with this name. He is my younger brother and also the culprit who caused me to become like this. Yao Ming gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. After a long while, he breathed heavily and relaxed. My lord, the underworld blood crystal is a treasure born from the 9 underworlds underworld. Now, there is only one left in the entire underworld. I offer it to you, my lord. As Yao Ming spoke, he handed the underworld blood crystal in his hand to Xiao Feng. How considerate of you. Xiao Feng smiled and waved his hand to put the underworld blood crystal into his ring. "Let's go." Xiaofeng nodded at Yao Ming. With a wave of his hand, he leapt up like a bolt of lightning from the bottom of the water and rushed toward the surface of the lake. Yao Ming followed closely behind. He also leapt out of the water and rushed toward the surface of the lake. Splash! The sound of water splashing could be heard. Xiaofeng and Yao Ming broke through the water and rushed to the surface of the lake. "You're finally out? I've been waiting for a long time." A cold voice sounded. Suddenly, there was a loud rumble in the air. The yuan qi of heaven and earth shook violently. "Die for me!" Roar! A giant black snake that was thousands of feet long rushed into the sky with a loud rumble. Monstrous flames filled the air. A cold and ruthless aura surged like a raging tide. Underworld, Great Seal. The giant black snake let out a loud roar. The cold air in the air quickly gathered. In the blink of an eye, it formed a giant black seal the size of a mountain. It pressed down on Xiaofeng and Yao Ming, who had just rushed out of the lake. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Spiritual light flickered on the giant seal. Countless strange symbols lit up with an icy cold light. A monstrous aura that could suppress everything and freeze the world rose from the giant seal. The aura of this attack was monstrous. Clearly, the person who had attacked also possessed the strength of the Doshin class. "Master, be careful." Yao Ming knew what was going on the moment the giant black snake appeared and the icy cold energy gathered. He hurriedly shouted at Xiaofeng, "This is one of the Do skills of my 9 serene deep python tribe. Back then, I was plotted against by this move and was sent to the bottom of the underworld spring. That was why I suffered for hundreds of years." Underworld Great Seal, huh? Xiaofeng's expression did not change at all when he saw the giant black seal smash down on him. Instead, a faint smile appeared on his face. This was the first time he was fighting with someone after advancing to the Doshin class. He also wanted to know just how strong he was after advancing to the Doshin class. "Since you have the Underworld Great Seal, take my mountain moving seal." Xiaofeng's body flashed. He charged toward the giant black seal that was smashing down on him. His hand formed a seal as he pushed his palm forward. Bang! His palm was pushed forward with the force of a mountain. A towering mountain appeared in Xiaofeng's palm and violently smashed toward the giant seal that was smashing down on him. An incomparably vast force surged. The towering mountain crushed everything in its path. Its divine might was awe-inspiring and unstoppable. Bang! An earth-shaking explosion sounded. The entire space emitted a kacha-kacha sound. It seemed that even the surrounding space had been shattered by this attack. The giant black seal suddenly exploded. An intense shockwave surged out. A wild wind tore apart the ground, destroyed the mountain rocks, and shattered the rock pillars. In an instant, sand and rocks were sent flying. Dust filled the sky. The towering mountain broke through the air and charged forward. An incomparably powerful force swept up the giant black snake and violently smashed it into a mountain in front of it. Bang! The mountain was crushed and exploded into rocks that filled the ground. The enormous force crushed the giant black snake into the ground, deeply embedding it into the ground. Isn't this a little too strong? Yao Ming opened his mouth wide. He was stunned. Chapter 158. So weak. Xiaofeng looked at the giant black snake embedded in the ground and curled his lips in disdain. Puffed. The giant black snake spat out a mouthful of blood and hung its head weakly. "It's not dead yet." Xiaofeng clenched his fist and planned to give it another punch. "Master." At this moment, Yao Ming stopped Xiaofeng. "Master, can you hand him over to me?" "Hand him over to you?" Xiaofeng turned to look at Yao Ming and frowned slightly. In the next moment, Xiaofeng immediately thought of the reason. He pointed at the black snake embedded in the ground and said to Yao Ming, "Could this be Yao Xiaotian? It's this evil creature." Yao Ming nodded and looked at the giant black snake on the ground with deep hatred in his eyes. "Master, this evil creature framed me and suppressed me in the 9 underworld's yellow springs. I've been living a life worse than death for hundreds of years. Please allow me to kill this evil creature with my own hands to vent the hatred in my heart. Is that so? Xiao Feng nodded and waved his hand at Yao Ming. Then I'll leave it to you. Thank you, master. Yao Ming happily thanked Xiao Feng and walked in front of the giant black snake. He reached out and pressed on the snake's head. His expression became ferocious and twisted. Yao Xiaotian, you didn't think that I'd be able to escape one day, did you? I've been suffering for hundreds of years, living a life worse than death. If I don't kill you, how can I vent the hatred in my heart? Die! Yao Ming roared out and stabbed his hand into the snake's head. With a hiss, he dug out a fist-sized, glowing crystal core from the snake's head. TSK, TSK. He even pulled out a demon core? How ruthless! Seeing Yao Ming's actions, Xiao Feng sighed and expressed his understanding of Yao Ming's actions. After being suppressed in the 9 underworld's yellow springs for hundreds of years, how could he not take revenge after escaping? Ha ha! Yao Ming stepped on the black snake's head and laughed maniacally. Then, under Xiao Feng's astonished gaze, it swallowed the flickering crystal core into its stomach. He swallowed it just like that? Xiao Feng was clearly stunned for a moment. To an alchemist, any crystal core was the main ingredient for refining pills. When he saw the crystal cores, the first thing that came to his mind was alchemy. However, this kind of situation where it was directly swallowed without any refinement was truly incomprehensible. He's also a 9-abyss python. Naturally, it won't be a problem for him to refine the crystal cores of his kind. The supreme elixir spirit reminded Xiao Feng in his mind. I see. After Yao Ming swallowed the crystal core, his aura skyrocketed, and he seemed to have recovered his strength. Xiao Feng smiled and nodded. Not bad. Who dares to behave atrociously in the sacred land of my 9 nether clan? Suddenly, a loud shout resounded from the front. Then a burst of air-piercing sound resounded. Then, several silhouettes rushed over with whistling sounds. Human? Die. The leader was an old man in a red robe. When he saw Xiao Feng, he didn't say anything else. He waved his hand and chopped down. 10,000 poison palm. A huge black palm print appeared in the air. An incomparably fishy stench spread out. The stench was nauseating. The palm slammed down with a shocking aura. Clearly, this red-robed old man was also a Dosheng. Scram! Xiao Feng roared toward the sky. A mighty thunderous sound suddenly surged out. The soul-shaking energy rumbled over like a raging tide. At the same time, the 3 petal-like symbols in Xiao Feng's eyes slowly rotated. An invisible energy followed the thunderous demon, subduing mantra, and charged towards the red-robed old man. This red-robed old man was also a Dosheng. They were about to fight against the Soul Palace. Xiao Feng really needed such a fighter. Naturally, he couldn't bear to kill him. The mighty thunderous sound blasted out. The red-robed old man was hit squarely. His body immediately turned sluggish, and his soul became chaotic. Bang! The 10,000 poison palm in his hand had lost the support of his do, qi, and instantly collapsed. The red-robed old man only felt an unknown energy smash into his soul, causing him to become muddle-headed and delirious. His body swayed, and the red-robed old man fell head first onto the ground. After he flipped over and sat up, his eyes were still dull and blurry. In an instant, the 3 petal-like symbols flashed and disappeared. The red-robed old man regained his consciousness. However, he was already under Xiao Feng's control. Damn it! Formed the 10,000 snake formation. The few old men following closely behind immediately cried out in shock and anger when they saw the red-robed old man being defeated in an instant. Numerous spiritual lights shot up and pierced through all the figures that were flying through the air. A vast aura rose in the air, and an enormous snake figure appeared in the air above everyone. 10,000 snake formation. Xiao Feng frowned slightly when he saw the phenomenon in front of him. However, a smile appeared on his lips. Seeing this 10,000 snake formation, Xiao Feng thought of the 5-snake poison seal in Medusa's serpentman tribe. The 10,000 snake formation in front of him was almost the same as the 5-snake poison seal. It also gathered everyone's strength and unleashed an extremely powerful attack. These people were all his future subordinates, so Xiao Feng could not make a move. Thus, Yao Ming's role was revealed. I am Yao Ming. All of you stop. When Yao Ming saw the 10,000 snake formation rise, he hurriedly rushed over and roared at the people in front of him. Yao Ming, clan leader Yao Ming, how is this possible? Within the 10,000 snake formation, all the 9 abyss pythons were stunned. When they looked up and saw the figure in front of them, the distant memories in their hearts were quickly awakened. A scream of disbelief rang out. Clan leader Yao Ming, how is this possible? Didn't you die from chi deviation? Clan leader Yao Ming, didn't clan leader Yao Ming disappear for hundreds of years? Why have you reappeared now? The sky snake formation had already stopped operating, but the giant snake shadow that appeared out of nowhere still did not dissipate. You still don't believe me? Yao Ming snorted coldly. He opened his mouth and spat out a ray of black light. It turned into a 5-foot-long black scepter in his hand. This scepter was completely black, and the top was formed by 2 lifelike black, poisonous snakes coiling around each other. Between the 2 snakes was a fist-sized black pearl that emitted a faint, cold light. Do you recognize this item? Yao Ming raised the scepter and roared. Roar! The scepter in Yao Ming's hand trembled, and a roar that sounded like a dragon's roar rang out. A resonance that came from the soul caused all the 9 abyss pythons present to tremble. At the same time, the giant snake that appeared in the sky above the 10,000 snake formation also roared before dissipating from the world. This is the 9 abyss staff. This is our clan's treasure, the 9 abyss staff. Bloodline resonance, soul worship. This is the 9 abyss staff. When the scepter appeared, the 10,000 snake formation suddenly dissipated. All the 9 abyss pythons trembled as they looked at Yao Ming. Greetings, clan leader Yao Ming. Chapter 159. Xiao Feng is doing pretty well. Seeing the report from the Supreme Elixir Spirit, Li Yu smiled. He is already a battle sage and has even subdued the 9 abyss python race. This force is not weak at all. Li Yu chuckled. Xiao Feng has already decided to go all out against the Soul Hall. Then, let's add fuel to the fire. He extended his hand, and a piece of ancient jade appeared in his hand. This is the ancient emperor's jade. Li Yu played with the mottled ancient jade in his hand. He frowned and looked at it for a long time. However, he couldn't find anything impressive about the ancient emperor's jade. All right, this is a key. Moreover, is an eighth of a key. Li Yu casually threw the ancient emperor's jade into the resource storage. He instructed the system, scan and analyze the ancient emperor's jade. Scan complete. Analysis complete. The ancient emperor's jade is made from fire jade. It has an incomplete rune array. Incomplete rune array? Li Yu chuckled. Of course it was incomplete. It was only an eighth of a key. System, can you deduce the complete rune array based on the rune array in the ancient emperor's jade? Yes. Do you want to deduce? Begin deduction. The ancient emperor's jade was the key to the ancient emperor's cave dwelling. Moreover, it had the function of retrieving emperor pills. Li was curious about this item. Since it could be deduced, he might as well take a look. Deduction complete. The system soon completed the deduction of the rune array in the ancient emperor's jade and displayed it in Li Yu's mind. Void positioning? Energy resonance? There's also a pill dissolving ring? Li Yu nodded his head when he saw the few functions that the system had analyzed. Void positioning was to summon the ancient emperor's cave dwelling. Energy resonance was probably the function of opening the cave dwelling. As for the pill dissolving ring, it was the function of retrieving emperor pills. All right, the item that Hun Tiandi had been scheming for is now in my hands. Li Yu laughed and got the system to return the jade of the ancient emperor to the supreme pill spirit. Speaking of which, if I were to empty out the ancient emperor's cave abode now, I would be able to do so. What kind of expression would Hun Tiandi have when he finds out that there isn't even a single strand of hair in the ancient emperor's cave after risking his life and racking his brains to open it. Liu rubbed his chin and laughed dryly. It seems worth looking forward to. This was a spontaneous decision. According to Li Yu's original plan, he was to let Xiao Feng and Hun Tiandi fight in the ancient god cave abode. After that, he would move a stool and watch the show while eating sunflower seeds. But at this moment, Li Yu realized that even if he emptied the entire ancient emperor cave abode, it wouldn't stop him from enjoying the show. Moreover, it would be even more interesting if they fought over the treasures in the ancient emperor's cave abode only to discover that there was nothing inside. Then, Li began to add fuel to the fire. A day later, all the top forces in the world received an invitation to an auction house, along with a list of auction items. This was an invitation to an auction that was scheduled to begin a month later. This invitation, which had appeared without anyone noticing, caused the leaders of the top forces to break out in cold sweat. No one knew how this invitation had appeared. It had appeared in the study room of the leaders of the top forces without anyone noticing. This shocking invitation caused the leaders of the top forces to thoroughly check their defenses. However, they were still clueless. In fact, other than Li Yu, who else could do such a thing? Gu Shu, this newly advanced Dodi, had been treated as a labor by Li Yu. He had traveled to all the top forces in the world for one day and one night. He even had to get people to deliver the items without anyone noticing. Even a Dodi wouldn't be able to handle it. After Gu Shu had completed this act, his face had turned pale. The faces of the leaders were even paler. Since someone could deliver the items without anyone noticing, could he also take their heads without anyone noticing? This was really too shocking. Of course, the most shocking thing was that they had opened the invitation and saw the list of auction items inside. Heavenly Flame, Tier 9 elixir pills. The pill tower's old ancestor's face was filled with shock. He was scared silly by this list. Forget about the Heavenly Flame. After all, there were dozens of Heavenly Flames in the world. If someone wanted to squander and auction a Heavenly Flame, that was their problem. But a Tier 9 elixir pill was shocking, because the pill tower's old ancestor was formed from a Tier 9 Xian pill. Now, someone was actually auctioning a Tier 9 elixir pill. How could the pill tower's old ancestor not be shocked? Ancient Emperor's Jade? Ancient Emperor's Cave Dwellings Address? The faces of the 8 ancient clans, especially those from the Soul Tribe, turned green when they saw this. Each of the 8 ancient clans had one piece of the Ancient Emperor's Jade. Everyone wanted to gather all 8 pieces of ancient jade to find the Ancient Emperor's cave dwelling. But because they were equal in strength, they couldn't achieve their wish. At this moment, someone was auctioning off the Ancient Emperor's jade openly. The 8 ancient clans checked the jade they had kept. When they realized that the jade hadn't been lost, they were somewhat skeptical. But when they saw the Ancient Emperor's cave dwelling guide attached at the back of the invitation, which listed all the items in the Ancient Emperor's cave dwelling in detail, the faces of the leaders of the 8 ancient clans turned black. How could the leaders of the 8 ancient clans endure this? Especially Hun Tiandi. He had planned for so long. Just as he was about to make his move, someone did something like this. Hun Tiandi almost vomited blood. The world's #1 auction house. At this moment, almost all the leaders of the major factions were muttering this name. This name was very old-fashioned, but no one dared to ignore this name. They even dare to auction something like this? Is it real or fake? If it's real, where did these items come from? Is someone really going to sell them? Then, the leaders started to have headaches. Regardless of whether it was real or fake, they had to go and take a look. But if there were really such items, what should they use to exchange for them? These items were priceless treasures. It was worth it no matter what price they had to pay. But even with their wealth, they felt that they couldn't afford to pay this price. If they couldn't afford it, what should they do? Of course, snatch. Wait, Wuyuan City? The world's #1 auction house was located in Wuyuan City? Everyone who saw the address and understood it immediately recalled the enormous golden palm that covered the sky outside Wuyuan City a few years ago. They also recalled the handprint that had almost penetrated the ground. Gasp! He sucked in a breath of cold air. Those who could become leaders were not stupid. It was easy for them to make such an obvious connection. In that case, this world's #1 auction house must be related to the heaven-shrouding Great Emperor. They had no choice but to buy the items honestly. I have to get them. At this moment, all the top factions began to gather their resources. As long as it was a high-grade resource, no matter if it was a pill or a variety of rare treasures, they began to gather the heavenly cauldrons on the heavenly cauldron ranking and the heavenly flames on the heavenly flame ranking. The top factions began to go crazy. The higher-ups, middle-level, and bottom-level factions were greatly affected. In an instant, the entire world was engulfed in the flames of war. Countless factions were wiped out. Countless resources were robbed. The culprit that caused all of this, Liu turned around and yawned. He went back to sleep on the couch. Chapter 160. Let's go take a look at the ancient emperor's cave abode. Liu yawned as he climbed up from the soft couch. With a wave of his hand, he opened up a spatial tunnel. With a flash, he disappeared from the room. When he stepped out of the teleportation door, what greeted him was a sea of fiery red and scorching lava. The endless lava was like a vast ocean. Torrential heat waves surged, and even the light seemed to be distorted. To think that the ancient emperor's cave abode is hidden in the underground lava of the Jialan Academy. Liu chuckled and couldn't help but praise. As expected, a secret is best hidden within another secret. The underground lava of the Jialan Academy was where the fallen heart flame was sealed. No one would have thought that the ancient emperor's cave abode was hidden here. It was no wonder that countless people had searched for this cave abode since ancient times, but to no avail. Stepping into the lava, the scorching heat melted gold and iron. Liu shook his white robe, and a spiritual light appeared on it. An invisible force pushed away the surrounding lava, creating a path in front of Liu. This sacred weapon-grade white robe was modified from the mystic gold armor formed from the alligator ancestor scales. The legendary Saint Robe's ability to be impervious to fire and water was the simplest and most basic ability. As he continued forward, he went deeper into the sea of lava. Splash! Splash! In front of him, from the scorching lava that was faintly emitting a white light, huge figures that were over 10 feet long suddenly charged out. These silhouettes swam in the lava, stirring up the lava and creating splashing sounds. Roar! Huge crocodile-like figures leaped out from the lava and roared at Liu. As they roared, they opened their mouths and spat out streams of blazing fire like fountains. Go play at the side. Liu raised his brows and waved his sleeves at the blazing fire in front of him. A strong wind blew. A gust of hurricane-like energy swept the fire away. The whistling wind created a tsunami-like tide in the lava. The raging tide surged violently, enveloping this group of crocodile-like creatures and rushing far away. By the time everything calmed down, these creatures were already nowhere to be found. Is this a lava crocodile? Only then did Liu remember what these creatures were. Creatures that live in the lava and absorb the heat of the lava for food. Interesting. Liu chuckled and continued forward. These lava crocodiles were only slightly interesting. At most, Liu looked at it a few more times out of curiosity. There was nothing worthy of his attention. He slowly walked forward. His seemingly leisurely pace was, in fact, extremely fast. Not long after, Liu stopped in front of a piece of blazing lava that was shining with white light. So it's a small space at the bottom of the lava? Looking around, Liu could feel the spatial ripples in front of him. He smiled and nodded. The ancient emperor's cave abode is here. After many years of cultivation in this world, Liu had already reached the complete dragon realm. At this moment, even without the system scanning, Liu could clearly sense the location of the space. The spatial energy in this world is so active. There are small spaces and small worlds everywhere. Liu pressed his hand on the spatial barrier in front of him. Following the method of using spatial energy that the system had summarized, Liu waved his hand gently, and a huge crack appeared in the spatial barrier in front of him. Stepping in, Liu instantly passed through the spatial barrier and entered another space. This is the ancient emperor's cave abode. What appeared in front of Liu was a dark and silent space. Dark and silent. The entire space was filled with an ancient aura. A ball of light appeared in the distance. As the light shone, a stone door appeared. A huge stone door that was tens of thousands of feet tall. The stone door stood quietly in the vast space. It would last forever. An ancient aura slowly spread out and rippled between heaven and earth. Above the stone door, there were 4 huge ancient words. Ancient Emperor's Cave Abode. The simple and unadorned characters were thick and heavy, but they didn't appear to be gorgeous. However, within the plain words, there was a boundless majesty that came from above heaven and earth. It was just that Liu didn't feel this majesty at all. The real cave abode must be behind this door. Liu smiled. Just as he was about to walk towards the stone door, he suddenly stopped and turned his head to look at the endless dark space beside him. Swoosh! In the dark space, a pair of huge eyes suddenly opened. 2 dazzling golden lights shone, as if 2 small suns had risen in the darkness. The pair of eyes shone with a brilliant golden light. The majestic aura was like the majesty of the heavens. Roar! An earth-shattering roar reverberated through heaven and earth. A huge body that shone with a purplish gold light, like a huge mountain range that stretched for tens of thousands of miles, rushed out from the endless dark space. Rumble! Rumble! The twisting of the body brought about a strong gust of wind that sounded like thunder. Be quiet. Liu frowned. He turned his head and glared at the figure. Even though he had only revealed a trace of the Green Lotus Emperor weapon's aura, it had frightened the old dragon who was guarding the door. Roar ugh! The earth-shattering roar suddenly paused. The figure that was rushing out suddenly paused. A pair of huge eyes that were flickering with a golden light suddenly revealed a horrified fear. This caused the incomparably huge figure to tremble. You, sir, Emperor, the huge head immediately lowered. The fear that originated from the soul had caused the figure to speak incoherently. Go back and sleep. Liu waved his hand gently. After which, he ignored the old dragon and directly walked towards the huge stone door. Understood. The old dragon shrunk his neck. His entire body trembled as he withdrew into the endless dark space. Is this old dragon the Dragon Emperor who has been missing for a long time? Xian's father? Liu smiled and shook his head. He is indeed worthy of being the ferocious dragon that caused Han Tiandi to vomit blood with a single claw. He is only a step away from becoming a Dodi. Unfortunately, it is too difficult to become a Dodi in an era without origin energy. He took a step forward, and his figure landed on the huge square in front of the stone door. There is still space within space. Liu smiled as he looked at the huge stone door. I have used this stone door as a spatial anchor point to open up another small space. The use of spatial power in this world is really overflowing. Liu walked to the front of the stone door. He saw the densely packed rune seals on the stone door. He chuckled. This stone door can only be opened with the Ancient Emperor's Jade. However, I can even sell the Ancient Emperor's Jade wholesale. According to the energy resonance method that the system had obtained from analyzing the Ancient Emperor's Jade, Liu extended his hand and pointed. Brilliant flowing light was released from the stone door. A huge tunnel that was filled with flowing light suddenly opened. Liu's figure flashed and stepped into the tunnel. Without the Ancient Emperor's Jade, the Ancient Emperor's Cave was opened just by extending his hand and pointing. The old dragon, who was secretly peeking, was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. The old dragon lifted his head to look at the open tunnel. His eyes revealed a fervent look. In the next instant, his body trembled. The old dragon closed his eyes and muttered softly, I can't look and I can't think. That person, I can't afford to offend him. Chapter 161. In front of him was another world, on a vast and boundless plain. A huge ancient palace stood tall and erect. In front of the ancient palace was a huge square. On the square, there were stone pillars that were hundreds of zhang tall. At the top of the stone pillars, there were flames of different colors and shapes burning fiercely. This is the so-called Heavenly Flame Square. Liu smiled. In a flash, he landed on the Heavenly Flame Square. Other than the nihility devouring flame and the purifying demonic lotus flame, all the other heavenly flames in this world are here. Although, they're just some specimens. Looking at the heavenly flames, Liu smiled and nodded. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept across and collected all the heavenly flames burning on the stone pillars into the resource vault. System, scan and analyze the heavenly flames collected. Liu instructed and ignored it. Then, he continued walking forward. In front of him, there was a thick fog. The entire ancient palace was shrouded in the fog, and there was a faint medicinal fragrance in the fog. This fog should be caused by the Emperor Pill. With a flick of Liu's sleeve, a howling gust of wind swept up, instantly dispersing the thick fog. The entire hall was clearly revealed before Liu's eyes. Liu did not care about the palace. Instead, his gaze was on the huge statue in front of him. The statue was of an old man. It was the owner of the ancient Emperor cave dwelling, the legendary ancient Emperor. The stone statue stood between heaven and earth, emitting a strong aura that was above all living things. Is this the so-called ancient Emperor? Liu chuckled. He did not feel the strong aura at all. He glanced at the stone statue. There were many beautiful balls of light flying around the stone statue. Within the balls of light, he could vaguely see ancient scrolls. This should be the ancient emperor's collection of martial arts manuals. However, these are at most heaven-class fighting skills. They are useless to me. I'll just sell them at the auction. Thinking that there was going to be a big event at the auction, it was not a bad idea to use these things to decorate it. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept across, and the hundreds of balls of light around the stone statue disappeared instantly. Sir, you're taking my things. Why didn't you greet the owner? An old voice rang out in the air. Although the voice was calm, there was a sense of superiority and arrogance in it. The yuan qi of heaven and earth shook violently. An old figure walked over step by step in the air. This aged figure actually had the exact same appearance as the stone statue. He had a head of colorful long hair that seemed to be burning with countless flames. The old man walked in front of Liu and stood in mid-air with his hands behind his back. His gaze was calm as he looked at Liu below. His gaze was as if he was looking at an ant. Huh. How interesting. Are you trying to act cool? When Liu saw the old man's appearance and demeanor, he couldn't help but laugh. How? The old man shouted. The vast aura was like a tsunami. The endless power was earth-shattering. The surrounding yuan qi of heaven and earth shook violently. It seemed that the yuan qi of heaven and earth was trembling in fear because of the old man's roar. I'm not used to talking to people with my head raised. Get down here. Liu waved his hand gently. His gentle action was like brushing away the morning dew on a flower petal. It was elegant and gentle. However, the old man who was floating in the air staggered and fell from the sky. With a boom, he smashed into the hard ground of the plaza, causing the dust on the ground to fly. Ha! The higher you stand, the more painful it is to fall. Don't you understand this? Liu smiled and shook his head. The old man got up from the ground and looked at Liu with horror. You are the great emperor? Tisk, great emperor? A mere Dodi dares to call himself a great emperor? Liu curled his lips in disdain and reached out his hand to grab the old man. An invisible force directly pulled the old man up. A bright light circulated around the old man's body. Not long after, a colorful, sparkling, jade-like pill fell into Liu's hand. Even pills can transform and have such high spiritual intelligence. This world is really mysterious. Liu waved his hand and kept the pill into the resource storage. Habitually, he began to scan and analyze it. System, extract all the memories of the pill. Analyze the structure of the pill and analyzed the origin energy in the pill. The pill could allow one to become a Do-D. It definitely contained the origin energy. Liu was also curious about the origin energy in this world. He wanted to see how it was different from his chaos energy. Memory extraction completed. Analysis of the pill's structure completed. Analysis of the origin energy completed. A moment later, the system sent the analysis result to Liu. The origin energy, is this what it means? Seeing the system's conclusion, Liu was a little surprised. However, he also felt that it was reasonable. The origin energy in this world was not the chaos energy that Liu imagined. It was actually a higher quality energy. It was of a higher quality than the origin energy of heaven and earth. This world was only one of the worlds in the Great Thousand Worlds. Most of the Do-D experts eventually left this world and stepped into the vast and boundless Great Thousand Worlds. For countless years, countless Do-D had left this world with the origin energy that they had absorbed from this world. As time passed, the energy in this world became less and less. From a vast ocean, it became a lake. When the water was shallow, it was naturally impossible to raise a dragon. This was the reason why no one in this world became a Do-D after the ancient times. If one doesn't become a Do-D, they won't leave this world. In the end, they can only die and their energy will return to heaven and earth. In this way, the energy in this world can be generally balanced. At the same time, it won't be exhausted and enter the age of chaos. After figuring out the reason behind this, Liu's thoughts became even more open. The situation in the worlds where people could ascend was very similar to this world. Every powerful individual that ascended took away the origin energy of this world. In the long run, the energy of this world would be exhausted. No wonder there are such things as heavenly tribulations in many worlds. The so-called heavenly tribulations are the instinctive self-protection of the world. By killing the individual that is about to ascend, the origin energy can be left in this world. Liu smiled and raised his head to look at the huge statue in front of him. Imperial flames, the origin flame of the ancient emperor. There is also a trace of the ancient emperor's soul. Since I'm here, I can't let it go. Liu waved his hand, and an invisible wave pulled out a ball of blazing fire from the chest of the statue. Instantly, it was kept in the resource vault. All right, I'm done with the looting. Liu turned his head and looked around. When he saw that there was nothing worth taking, he shook his head and prepared to leave. Since I'm here, of course I have to leave a mark. Just as he was about to leave, a thought flashed through Liu's mind, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. A ray of sword chi shot out from his fingertip. Liu waved his hand and carved a line of words on the ground. Young man, you're late. Chapter 162. Great Emperor. Liu had just exited the ancient emperor's cave, and the space passage on the stone door had just closed when he suddenly heard someone calling out to him. Turning his head, he saw a middle-aged man with an imposing appearance standing to the side with a face full of smiles. Oh, it's you. Liu glanced at the middle-aged man and immediately understood his identity. He was naturally the old dragon in human form. Great Emperor, Xiaolong has been trapped here for countless years, unable to see the light of day. Great Emperor is merciful. Can you save Xiaolong from this sea of suffering? The middle-aged man had a fawning expression as he prostrated himself before Liu. You saw me? You actually saw me coming here? Liu's face suddenly revealed a look of surprise. It was as if the old dragon had seen him and felt that it was very inconceivable. The middle-aged man's body froze, and cold sweat broke out all over his body. With a plop, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed heavily. No, I didn't see anything. As the old dragon kowtowed, he cried out loudly as if his soul had left his body. His entire body trembled, and he regretted his rash actions to the point that his intestines turned green. It's good that you didn't see anything. Liu chuckled and waved his hand at the old dragon. A huge force directly hit the old dragon into the endless dark void. Be at ease and wait. Not long after, you will naturally be able to escape. With a wave of his hand, Liu tore open a space passage and stepped in. In an instant, he disappeared without a trace. Only the old dragon was left shivering in the dark void. Even after Liu disappeared, the old dragon was still muttering, "I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything." With a step, Liu's figure instantly appeared in the room of the auction house. With the accurate spatial coordinates, Liu's teleportation door spell could allow him to instantly reach any recorded location. In the origin world, Liu could also rely on the store's space to teleport to any recorded location at any time. It was very similar to this portal spell. Unfortunately, Liu could only use the teleportation ability of the mall space in that world if he was in a world that was mounted in the mall space. Now that he had this portal spell, Liu basically didn't need to walk as long as the spatial energy wasn't very still and the space wasn't very solid. Returning to the auction house, Liu smiled and nodded at the busy figures downstairs. Under Yafei's management, the auction house was finally on the right track, and all the businesses were in full swing. In the end, I'm still lacking in foresight. Seeing the customers coming and going downstairs, Liu shook his head slightly. I've been busy for so long, and it's all just small businesses. I hope that the auction in a month's time will broaden her horizons. Liu tossed these thoughts aside and returned to the room. System, extract all the memories from the ancient emperor's soul. The last OD from ancient times until now had been promoted from a heavenly flame. Liu was also somewhat curious about this ancient emperor. More importantly, the ancient emperor could even refine emperor pills, and his alchemist level had already reached the peak of this world. The knowledge extracted from the soul would not only enrich Liu's resource library, but also allow the Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit's knowledge system to be updated. This world was only one plane in the Great Thousand Worlds, and Xiaofeng had to conquer the Great Thousand Worlds. The Grand Supreme Elixir Spirit had followed Xiaofeng through all the battles, and its knowledge definitely couldn't fall behind. Memory extraction complete. Recorded in Resource Library. Very good. Now analyze the Imperial Flame for me. After devouring all the heavenly flames in the world, it finally became the last OD from ancient times. Not only did this Imperial Flame possess all the characteristics of a heavenly flame, but it had also been greatly enhanced. After analyzing the Imperial Flame, Liu could also obtain information about the missing Nihility Devouring Flame and Purifying Demonic Lotus Flame. Analysis complete. Information recorded in Resource Library. Alright, everything that can be done in this world is done. Liu laid his head on the soft couch and yawned lazily. Now, all that's left is to wait for the world's #1 auction. Liu stretched his back and a strange smile appeared on his face. I have emptied the ancient emperor cave. When Han Tiandi and the others spend a huge price to buy the address of the ancient emperor cave dwelling from the auction house, buy the ancient emperor jade to open the cave dwelling, and enter the ancient emperor cave dwelling and see those words, will they cry, "Young man, you're late." Ha ha. Thinking of that scene, Liu laughed so hard that he couldn't catch his breath. After Liu messed with it, this world was basically ruined. The 8 ancient clans held onto the ancient emperor jade tightly, but eventually realized that this thing was a joke. Would they, who knew the truth, cry? No matter how hard Han Tiandi tried, he would only see, "Young man, you're late," in the end. If he didn't vomit blood, he would be considered to have a good temper. The system had recorded the ancient emperor's alchemist knowledge. As long as one had the ingredients, the auction house could even create an emperor pill. In the future, the alchemists of the pill tower would probably cry in the toilet. Ha! Liu happily prepared to watch the show. Then he forgot about the Shao brothers. The moment the invitation card was sent out, the Ancient Emperor Cave Guide listed the Emperor Pill and Heavenly Flame in detail. Everyone who was paying attention to the Ancient Emperor Cave no longer had any doubts. Although they didn't know what was wrong with shrouding Heaven Great Emperor to auction the Ancient Emperor Cave. However, when they recalled that the other party was also a Do-D, shrouding Heaven Great Emperor naturally wouldn't be interested in Emperor Pills that could allow one to become a Do-D. It wasn't impossible for him to auction it. As a heavenly flame that had escaped from the Ancient Emperor Cave, The nihility devouring flame immediately verified the contents of the invitation card. Hun Tiandi turned his attention to the auction house. Therefore, Xiao Yan, who had been captured by the Hall of Souls, was useless. Ha ha, brat, just accept your death obediently. Within the Hall of Souls in the Death Soul mountain range, a figure that was covered in pitch-black flames was laughing maniacally at the rebellious young man in front of him. This person was the Hall Master of the Hall of Souls, Hun Miesheng. Hun Miesheng possessed a flame that was separated from the nihility devouring flame. He also possessed a flame that was ranked second in this world. Xiao Yan, who had been captured by the Hall of Souls, had already merged 4 types of heavenly flames. At the critical moment when he was being attacked by the Hall of Souls, Xiao Yan had swallowed the bronze box that contained the heavenly flames into his stomach. He had left behind a trump card for himself to turn the situation around. After being locked in the Hall of Souls, Xiao Yan secretly took out the bronze box that contained 4 types of heavenly flames: green lotus earth fire, fallen heart flame, sea heart flame, and bone-chilling flame. The 4 types of heavenly flames had merged. Flame Mantra had been upgraded to a high D rank cultivation technique. Xiao Yan's cultivation had also soared continuously and reached the peak of the Dozone realm. Just as he was planning to unleash the 4 types of heavenly flames and unleash the angry Buddha lotus flame to wipe out the Hall of Souls, he encountered Hun Miesheng, who also possessed a heavenly flame. Faced with Hun Miesheng, a 5-star Dosheng, Xiao Yan was unable to resist and was captured once again. This time around, the Hall of Souls no longer needed Xiao Yan to exchange for the ancient Emperor's Jade. More importantly, the 4 types of heavenly flames in Xiao Yan's body had piqued Hun Miesheng's interest. He planned to use the nihility devouring flame to directly swallow Xiao Yan. Go and die. Black flames surged and filled the sky. The monstrous raging flames directly drowned Xiao Yan. Chapter 163. The monstrous black flame enveloped Xiao Yan. Even though it was only a seed flame of the nihility devouring flame, it still possessed the ability to devour everything. Xiao Yan only felt that the Do Qi in his body was rapidly dissipating. His body grew weaker and weaker, as though his soul was about to leave his body. Boom! The 4 mystical fires that had been fused by Xiao Yan suddenly exploded. A violent and scorching energy surged out. The green-blue flames and the pitch-black flames collided violently, exploding with an earth-shattering boom. Under the threat of a nihility devouring flame, the heavenly flame's instinct caused the 4 heavenly flames in Xiao Yan's body to erupt. They fought wildly with the nihility devouring flame. Ha ha! As expected of a heavenly flame, even in the hands of such a young boy, it can still unleash a powerful force. When Hun Miesheng saw the heavenly flames erupting from Xiao Yan's body, he was not surprised. Instead, he was very happy. Thanks to Lord Nihility, I have obtained a seed flame. As long as I devour these 4 heavenly flames, my seed flame will be able to grow quickly. It is even possible for it to reach Lord Nihility's level. Boy, you are really my lucky star. Hun Miesheng laughed loudly. His Do Qi erupted and poured into the black flame, causing the black flame to burn even more fiercely. An enormous devouring power erupted from the black flame. Bastard, Xiao Yan endured the devouring power of the black flame with all his might. However, the difference in strength was too great. Even though Xiao Yan had 4 heavenly flames, he could only endure with great difficulty under the nihility devouring flame that was driven by Hun Miesheng. He was in a precarious situation. Under the devouring power of the nihility devouring flame, the Do Qi in Xiao Yan's body became thinner and thinner. At this moment, he could only rely on the heavenly flame's instinctive resistance to maintain the situation with great difficulty. The black flame covered the sky like a raging tide. The green-blue flame formed by the 4 heavenly flames was like a dam under the impact of a raging tide. It was in danger of collapsing at any time. Are you still struggling before your death? When Han Yesheng saw that Xiao Yin was still resisting the erosion of the nihility devouring flame, anger rose in his heart. With a cold snort, Han Yesheng's hands shook and poured all his dou qi into the black flame. Boom! After Han Yesheng poured all of his dou qi into the black flame suddenly erupted. A powerful force suddenly shot out and violently shattered the light curtain formed by the four heavenly flames. Xiao Yan's deviant flame defense was destroyed, and the endless black flames instantly engulfed Xiao Yan. The power that could devour all living things was like a bone-crushing, and the intense pain caused Xiao Yan to be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Ha ha ha! Han Miesheng roared with laughter when he saw Xiao Yan's miserable state, and his face was covered in delight. 4 types of heavenly flames. As long as I devour these 4 deviant flames, the power of my junior nihility flame will increase greatly. Ha! Bastard! Damn it! Xiao Yan clenched his teeth and held on with all his might. There was nothing he could do about the black flames that had invaded his body and burned deep into his bones. What to do? What to do? This was the seed flame of the nihility devouring flames, the second strongest heavenly flame. How am I supposed to block it? How am I supposed to resist? Heavenly flame? Heavenly flame? This thing itself is also a type of heavenly flame? Xiao Yan's eyes suddenly lit up, and an idea suddenly appeared in his mind. Since it's a heavenly flame, can a flame mantra refine it? It's already a matter of life and death. Let's fight. At this time, out of confidence in the title of Grand Supreme, Xiao Yan did not hesitate to use the new flame mantra that Li Yu had given him. Then, the system analyzed the principle of the flame mantra, and the new flame mantra that was derived from the experimental data showed its fundamental mystery and displayed the essence of the heavenly flame's nemesis. The raging black flames were instantly incorporated into the new flame mantra's cultivation system and flowed along his meridians and gradually merged with the other 4 heavenly flames. Han Miesheng, who was laughing wildly, suddenly realized that the situation was not right. Under the constant devouring and erosion of the junior nihility flame, Xiao Yan should have turned into ashes very quickly and be completely devoured. But the youth who was becoming more and more spirited and his aura was becoming more and more powerful, what was going on? These 4 heavenly flames are actually so difficult to deal with. I want to... damn it, what's going on? Han Miesheng was about to increase his strength and eliminate Xiao Yan in a spur of energy, but just as he was about to raise his dou qi, he realized that his junior nihility flame was crazily devouring his dou qi. Damn it, what's going on? Why is it devouring my dou qi? Han Miesheng turned pale with fright. Just as he was about to break free, he realized that the devouring power had suddenly increased. The crazy devouring power caused Han Miesheng's legs to go soft, and he almost collapsed. Huff! Huff! His dou qi was constantly being devoured by the junior nihility flame. Han Miesheng panted heavily, and his entire body went soft, and he almost could not stand steadily. Actually, this was just an instinctive reaction of the junior nihility flame. After being refined by Xiao Yan using the new flame mantra, the junior nihility flame, as a clone of the nihility devouring flame, also possessed the instincts of a heavenly flame and would naturally resist instinctively. The junior nihility flame's own strength was unable to resist the refinement of the new flame mantra, so it instinctively needed to increase its own strength. Therefore, Han Miesheng's 5-star Dousheng's vast dou qi became the source of the junior nihility flame's strength. In this way, Xiao Yan refined the junior nihility flame, and the junior nihility flame continuously devoured Han Miesheng's dou qi cultivation. The final result was Xiao Yan, together with the junior nihility flame and Han Miesheng's dou qi cultivation, were devoured together. Boom! Endless raging flames erupted like a volcano, and purple-black raging flames surged out, rapidly spreading and instantly engulfing the entire Soul Hall. Damn it! What's going on? Nihility devouring flame? Why is Lord Nihility devouring us? Save us! Save us! The purple-black raging flames engulfed the entire Soul Hall in the Death Soul mountain range, and the purple-black flames with endless devouring power surged like a raging tide. At this moment, everyone in the Soul Hall was engulfed by the endless raging flames. The enormous devouring power directly swallowed everyone cleanly. Then, Xiao Yin ate until he was full. Boom! With an earth-shattering explosion, the monstrous raging flames with endless power violently erupted. In the Death Soul mountain range, the mountain where the Soul Hall was located was directly blasted into pieces. The raging flames rose, and smoke and dust rolled. Half the sky was enveloped in the huge smoke and dust that soared into the sky. This is what's going on. Outside the mountain, Xiao Feng, whose body was shining with golden light, led all the experts of the Nine Abyss Python clan to attack the Death Soul mountain range aggressively. Then what appeared in front of Xiao Feng was such a scene. Ah, ah, ah. In the smoke and dust that filled the sky, a figure with purple-black flames all over his body cried out strangely and descended from the sky. Then, with a boom, he crashed in front of Xiao Feng. Xiao Yan. Xiao Feng opened his eyes wide, and he was dumbfounded. Teacher, what's wrong with him? Huh, he obviously has nothing better to do. The Grand Elixir Spirit laughed loudly. Chapter 164. A month passed. Amidst the anticipation of countless people, this world-shocking auction officially began. Rumble, rumble. Early in the morning, the entire Wu Yuan city was awoken by a series of loud explosions. Some of the more hot-tempered people pushed open their windows and were about to shout, but when they saw the scene in the sky, they trembled in fear and retreated back to their rooms. In the distant sky, a huge spatial tunnel suddenly appeared. One by one, silhouettes with vast auras stepped out from the void and slowly walked down from the sky. In a small place like Wu Yuan City, where even a Dodosher was a top expert, when had they ever seen so many powerful people? What did Wu Yuan City have that was worthy of the presence of so many powerful people? The arrival of these people gave the citizens of Wu Yuan City quite a fright. Some of the more timid people were even prepared to pack up and run. However, what happened next surprised them greatly. After walking out of the spatial tunnel, these powerful beings with boundless auras lowered their heads and concealed their auras. They hurriedly landed on the ground and obediently walked toward Black Wall City step by step. After entering the city, not only did these powerful people not offend them, they even smiled and nodded at the citizens of Wu Yuan City. What's going on today? The citizens of Wu Yuan City were all dumbfounded, completely at a loss. When they saw these powerful existences walking in the same direction, they were even more dumbfounded. The world's #1 auction house. Seeing these powerful people walking toward the auction house, the citizens of Wu Yuan City were shocked. What was in this auction house that made these powerful people come in person? What was going on? What was even more shocking was that the auction house seemed to be assessing people's qualifications. A pretty girl stood at the entrance of the auction house. Every big shot who was present would present an invitation. Only after the girl nodded her head would they enter obediently. There was no noise, no commotion, and not even the sound of conversation. There was a long line in front of the auction house. These people, who could turn the Jiama Empire upside down with a stomp of their feet, were not angry at all and obediently waited there without any complaints. A few people did not seem to have brought an invitation. After being stopped at the entrance, they were not angry at all and obediently retreated. He hurriedly ran out of the city and opened up a spatial tunnel. After returning to get the invitation, he ran back to line up. What the hell is going on? They couldn't understand, and of course, no one would explain anything to them. Did you see that? Liu stood by the window upstairs and pointed at the obedient and respectful VIPs in front of the auction house. He turned his head and smiled at Yafei, who was standing beside him. What do you think of when you see this? Yafei seemed to be very excited, and her face was flushed red. I, I never thought that I would one day be on the same level as them. Yafei took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she twisted the handkerchief. You're wrong. Liu smiled and shook his head. You're not in the same league as them. Rather, you are above them. Above them? Yafei's mind went blank. During this time, Yafei had followed Liu to manage the auction house. She had broadened her horizons and knew what kind of people were coming today. The 8 ancient clans, the 3 magical beast clans, the 1 pagoda, 2 sects, 3 valleys, and 4 pavilions of the central state. These forces were all at the top of the pyramid. She could be above them. You have to remember, you're working for me. My people naturally have to be above them. Liu turned his head and glanced at Yafei. He smiled and waved his hand. You can go now. After today, no one in this world will dare to look down on you. From now on, you've reached the peak of this world. Yes. Yafei took a deep breath and calmed her wildly beating heart. She walked down the stairs with her head held high. In the auction house, the bright and soft lights illuminated the entire place. The various major forces present were arranged by the attendants to sit in their respective seats. Everyone, welcome to the world's #1 auction house. Yafei, who was dressed to the nines, walked over gracefully amidst the flowing lights. Under the lamplight, Yafei's charming face carried a hint of calm grace and elegance. You look okay. You don't look like a mistress anymore and have a more graceful bearing. Sure enough, women are born actresses. Liu saw Yafei appear from upstairs and nodded with a smile. Everyone, since receiving the invitation, I'm sure you're still doubtful. You think we're deliberately mystifying things and can't produce the items on the list. Yafei smiled elegantly and waved her hand behind her. Since that's the case, I'll let everyone have a look first. Ding, ding, ding. Yafei waved her hand lightly, and a crisp wind chime sounded. A row of huge display cases rose up on the stage. In the display cases, which were like white jade, there were all kinds of dazzling treasures shining with spiritual light. Ancient and mysterious scrolls, as well as glittering elixirs, filled the entire display cabinet. The most eye-catching items were the 3 most conspicuous display cases in the center. There were about 20 bronze boxes in the left display case. In the middle display case, there was a covered jade plate. In the right display case, there was an ancient elixir bottle. These are heavenly flames. All of them are heavenly flames. Yafei walked to the left display case. She extended her hand and took out a box. She gently opened it. A pitch-black flame rose and a devouring aura spread. Nihility, devouring flame. A cry sounded from the Hun clan's seat. A figure covered in a black robe suddenly stood up. His entire body was trembling. Nihility, sit down. Hun Tiandi extended his hand and pulled. Only then did the figure sit down while panting. It's not just the Nihility devouring flame. All of the heavenly flames here are here. Yafei smiled and gently closed the bronze box. The devouring flame was once again shut into the box. This is a tier 9 elixir. Yafei walked to the right display case. She extended her hand and took out an ancient jade elixir bottle. She gently opened the bottle cap. A strong medicinal fragrance filled the air, and a majestic spiritual energy made everyone in the venue tremble. Grade 9 Jindan. A white-haired old man in the pill tower's seat pointed at the elixir. He was so shocked that his entire body trembled. Ancestor! Ancestor! The few old men beside him hurriedly stood up and pulled the extremely excited white-haired old man back. Ha ha! Next, we will reveal the final auction item. Yafei laughed softly. She walked to the middle display case and extended her hand to pick up the jade plate. She held it in front of her. She waved her hand and removed the cloth covering the jade plate. 8 modeled ancient jade pieces were neatly arranged on the jade plate. Ancient God's Jade. The 8 ancient clans exclaimed at the same time at this moment. Chapter 165. Could it really be the ancient emperor's jade? Everyone from 8 ancient clans were surprised and delighted when they saw the 8 pieces of ancient jade on the tray. At the same time, They were shocked. The 8 ancient clans each held one piece of the ancient emperor's jade. Why were there 8 pieces of ancient emperor's jade here? How is this possible? I believe that everyone still has doubts in their hearts. Yafei carried the jade tray and placed it back on the display cabinet in the middle. After which, she said to everyone in the auction hall, "You can personally verify this item. However, take note that you can only take one piece of ancient jade to verify its authenticity." "All right, I will personally verify it." Han Tiandi immediately stood up after Yafei's words sounded. "Sure, anyone who has doubts can step forward to verify it." Yafei smiled. She extended her hand and gestured to Han Tiandi. Han Tiandi nodded. He walked onto the stage and arrived in front of the display cabinet in the middle. "Only one piece to verify it?" Han Tiandi nodded. He extended his hand towards the display cabinet and picked up a piece of ancient jade from a jade tray. The 8 ancient clans each held a piece of ancient emperor's jade. Over the years, they had already researched it thoroughly. Naturally, they had a way to distinguish its authenticity. A stream of Do Chi was extended. The rune array within the ancient jade was instantly activated. It suddenly emitted a brilliant spiritual light. "It is indeed the ancient emperor's jade." A fervent glint flashed across Han Tiandi's eyes. He wished that he could directly snatch the 8 pieces of ancient jade in front of him. However, he understood what kind of place this was. He did not dare to make any unusual movements. Huff! Han Tiandi exhaled deeply. He struggled in his heart. He reluctantly placed the ancient jade in his hand back onto the tray. After which, he turned around and left without saying anything. "Is there anyone else who wants to verify it?" Yafei asked the crowd once again. "Allow me." The ancient clan leader, Gu Yuan, stood up. He also stepped onto the stage to verify it. After which, he also walked back without saying anything. Next, the 8 ancient clans stepped onto the stage one by one to verify it. After the verification, they did not say anything. Instead, their eyes became as fiery as they looked at the ancient emperor's jade. Since no one has any more questions, I announce that the auction will officially begin. Yafei's voice sounded excited and high-spirited. The auction proceeded in an orderly manner. Firstly, there were various dose skills and medicinal pills. These items were coveted by all the major powers. However, the 8 ancient races' goal was the ancient emperor's jade, and they didn't have the time to care about anything else. The Pill Pagoda's target was the 9th grade Gene Dan, so they did not target these things. The other powers knew that they had no chance to compete for the ancient emperor's jade. Hence, they turned their attention to the battle techniques and medicinal pills. It wasn't long before all these battle skills and medicinal pills were snatched up by the various powers. The competition between the Deviant Flame and the 9th grade Gene Dan wasn't that intense. After several rounds of bidding, he finally obtained the 9th grade Gene Dan by paying a holy light cauldron that was ranked on the Heavenly Cauldron list. Deviant flames were extremely important to alchemists, and there were many who sold them, but in the end, only 3 types of deviant flames were sold. What was worth mentioning was that the Jialan Academy actually went all out and bought a Fallen Heart flame. Liu didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this result. Next up was the highlight of the auction. It was also the focus of everyone's attention, the Ancient Emperor's Jade. The next item is the finale of this auction, the Ancient Emperor's Jade. Yafei lifted the jade plate and placed it on the display table in front of her. The Ancient Emperor's Jade is the key to opening the Ancient Emperor's Cave. It's rumored that the Ancient Emperor's Cave has the opportunity to become a Dodi. I don't need to explain the value of the Ancient Emperor's Jade. Yafei raised her head and swept her gaze across the auction hall. A smile blossomed on her face. Next, let's start bidding. After Yafei finished speaking, the entire auction hall fell silent. Even the sound of breathing seemed to have stopped. The atmosphere became stifling. The silence caused Yafei's expression to stiffen. Even with her many years of experience in hosting auctions, she was still a loss. My clan bids a great earth cauldron. After a moment of silence, the leader of the Stone clan broke the silence. My clan bids a sea spirit cauldron and all the secret battle techniques of the spirit clan. The Spirit Clan immediately increased the price. The Falling Star Cauldron and the secret battle techniques of the Thunder Clan. The Thunder Clan followed closely behind without showing any signs of weakness. The Tiger Soul Cauldron and all the secret battle techniques of the Yao Clan. 1,000 years of production of the medicine world. The Yao Clan's face turned red as he shouted a price that even he was afraid of. The Purple Abyss Cauldron and the secret battle techniques of the Yin Clan. Ownership of the Flame World. The red-haired leader of the Yin Clan leaned on the table and let out a long breath. The moment this price was called, the entire auction hall fell silent. Everyone's heart skipped a beat, and they broke out in cold sweat. She even sold the small world that her family lived in. Everyone from the 8 ancient clans glared at the leader of the Yin Clan. They wanted to cut him into pieces. With such a price, how could others continue to bid? You've already sold your home. If others wanted to increase the price, wouldn't they have to sell their home as well? Bastard! Everyone cursed the leader of the Yin Clan in their hearts. Only Liu, who was watching the show from upstairs, chuckled. Actually, Liu wasn't very interested in the small world of their home. However, Liu still felt that it was very interesting to see them gritting their teeth and going all out. Our Gu Clan bids a black underworld cauldron, the secret technique of the Gu Clan, the ancient world heavenly tomb, and the ancient world. Gu Yuan glared fiercely at the leader of the Yin Clan. He gritted his teeth and shouted the price. The moment this price was called, no one could surpass Gu Yuan. This was because the other clans were unable to take out something like the ancient world heavenly tomb. Even the Hun clan was unable to take out something like the ancient world heavenly tomb. Damn it! Hun Tiany's expression was steely green. He clenched his fist tightly and gritted his teeth. Since the Hun clan didn't say anything, the other ancient clans were unable to take out a higher price than the Gu clan. The entire auction hall fell silent for once. Is there anyone who wants to make a higher price? Yafei extended her hand and removed the cloth covering the jade plate. She lifted the jade plate and displayed it under the light. The 8 pieces of ancient jade flickered with a mysterious glow amidst the bright light. Is there anyone who wants to make a higher price? Yafei asked for the second time. The auction hall remained silent. No one spoke. Is there anyone who wants to make a higher price? Yafei held the jade plate and smiled as she glanced at Hun Tiandi. After which, she turned towards Gu Yuan. Since no one else is bidding, then deal. Wait. Hun Tiandi suddenly stood up at the final juncture. My Hun clan is bidding for the primal chaos cauldron, the secret technique of the Hun clan, the ownership of the Hun realm, and Hun Tiandi turned his head to look at the nihility devouring flame beside him after speaking until this point. He continued, as well as the 21D clan bloodlines that have been destroyed since the ancient times in him. Hun Tiandi suddenly extended his hand and pointed at the nihility devouring flame. Everyone in the auction hall was stunned after these words were spoken. The primal chaos cauldron had landed in the hands of the Hun clan. Since the ancient times, the 21 Do-D bloodlines had definitely been destroyed in the hands of the Hun clan. The most shocking thing was that he had even sold the nihility devouring flame. Everyone from the Hun clan was so frightened that their faces turned pale when this price was announced. You have sold me? Endless black flames churned within the dark black eyes of the nihility devouring flame. His eyes were as cold as ice when he looked at Hun Tiandi. Hun Tiandi snorted. He lifted his head, but did not reply. Is there anyone who wants to make a higher bid? Yafei's voice trembled a little. Such a terrifying bid had frightened her. No one replied after she asked 3 times. Since there is no higher bid, then deal. Waves of majestic and vast auras suddenly erupted in the entire auction hall after these words were spoken. Clearly, these people had made up their minds. If they could not buy it, they would snatch it. A big battle was about to erupt. Chapter 166. Wave after wave of vast auras soared into the sky. It was as though a wild wind had swept across the entire auction ground. A great battle was about to break out. Humph! At this moment, a soft snort was heard. The voice was soft, and there was nothing shocking about it. It was as though it was just an ordinary snort. However, everyone in the auction ground felt as though thunder had exploded beside their ears when they heard this snort. The aura that had just risen instantly fell. "Please forgive us, great Emperor." Everyone finally recalled where they were. Cold sweat appeared on their heads, and they no longer dared to make any strange movements. "Since you have bought it, you can leave now that you have completed the transaction." A faint voice reverberated across the auction ground. "Thank you, great Emperor." Hun Tiandi was wild with joy. He hurriedly stepped forward and completed the transaction with Yafei. Only then did he receive the jade plate from Yafei. "I have finally obtained the ancient Emperor's jade." "Huh." Hun Tiandi happily kept the ancient jade into his ring. He turned around and left the auction ground without any hesitation. Everyone from the Hun clan looked at each other. This was because Hun Tiandi had turned around and left after taking the ancient Emperor's jade. He did not bother about the others from the Hun clan. "Hun Tiandi, you actually dare to sell me off like an item? How preposterous!" A pitch-black flame erupted from the nihility devouring flame's body. It seemed as though he was planning to barge in. "Since he is the one who made the bid, I can only accept it." The voice that drifted over from the sky was still very calm. However, the nihility devouring flame, whose body was covered in raging flames, let out a miserable shriek after he finished speaking. He instantly disappeared without a trace. At this moment, everyone in the auction ground felt as though a bucket of ice water had been poured over their heads. They were jolted awake. The ferocious nihility devouring flame had disappeared in the blink of an eye. Other than a great emperor, who else would have the ability to do so? Who would dare to cause trouble in front of a great emperor? Even if one was seeking death, this was not the way to do it. Ugh, the final winner of this auction could only be Hun Tiandi. Everyone let out a long sigh. They shook their heads dispiritedly. They cupped their hands towards Yafei and planned to leave. "Everyone, please wait." Yafei smiled and stopped everyone. "Although the ancient emperor's jade is gone, the location of the ancient emperor's cave mansion can still be sold." "What?" Everyone cried out in surprise and looked at Yafei in horror. He only felt that this smiling woman was even more terrifying than a ghost. This was like eating from the top and eating from the bottom. Such a disgusting and immoral thing. Oh no, of course, such a fair and just thing had to be actively supported. "Great. Thank you. Many thanks." This surprising news made everyone sit back down. The only ones who were at a loss were the people from the Hun clan, who had been ignored by Hun Tiandi. "My lord is interested in the heavenly cauldrons on the heavenly cauldron list." Yafei chuckled and waved his hand, revealing a stack of letters. A heaven cauldron and a letter. Genuine goods at fair prices, honest to both the old and the young. What do you think, everyone? That's how it should be. This is how it should be. Gu Yuan laughed out loud and stepped forward. He handed a storage ring to Yafei and exchanged it for a letter. After opening it and glancing at it, the letter instantly turned into ashes. "Thank you for your kindness." Gu Yuan nodded his head in surprise. He led the people from the Hun clan and left the auction house in a hurry. "Miss, I'll take one too." "Me too." The remaining 8 ancient clans handed over their heavenly cauldrons and exchanged it for a letter from Yafei. After the 8 ancient clans left, the other factions without heavenly cauldrons were helpless and could only bid farewell and leave. Only the leader of the Demon Flame Valley walked at the back. He secretly exchanged it for a letter when no one was paying attention. This feeling is really intoxicating. Yafei raised his head and closed his eyes. He spread his arms as if he was about to fly. TSK. Liu curled his lips and returned to his room. "System, scan and analyze all the heavenly cauldrons that I collected today. The most important thing is the primal chaos cauldron. I would like to see how magical this legendary treasure that was born at the beginning of the world is." Liu ate until his mouth was covered with oil in today's auction. More importantly, Hun Tiandi was about to be toyed to death, right? He had paid all the price and staked everything in order to enter the ancient god cave and obtain the opportunity to become a Dodi. When he opened the ancient god cave with great difficulty, he saw that it was empty. There was only a row of words on the ground. Young man, you are late. Hun Tiandi would not be angered to death, right? He should not be, right? At most, he would be angered half to death, right? This world is basically finished. Liu rubbed his chin and nodded with a smile. However, this world is only one of the planes in the Great Thousand World. Therefore, it is very valuable to use this world as a base to advance into the Great Thousand World. Xiao Feng will definitely let him conquer the Great Thousand World. Through his hard work in the Great Thousand World, I will be able to obtain an endless supply of resources. Therefore, I have to let him become a Dodi. Liu stretched out his hand, and a colorful elixir appeared in his hand. This Emperor elixir is still an embryonic elixir. It has yet to be perfected. However, to refine the real Emperor elixir, it is just a piece of cake. With the vast energy in the ancient world's heavenly tomb, the system could directly refine the embryonic Emperor elixir. There was no need to waste too much effort. Before I leave, I have to meet with Xiao Feng and give him the Emperor elixir. Also, the Supreme Elixir Spirit has already given the title of Supreme. As a fellow countryman, I have to give Xiao Yin some benefits. At the thought of this, Liu glanced at the ancient god's soul remembrance and Dodi's origin source in the resource warehouse. This was originally his opportunity. I will just return it to him when the time comes. The two Dodi of the Xiao clan are brothers. It will only be beneficial for me to let them conquer the Great Thousand World together. There is no need to be too stingy. Other than that, the only thing left was the stronghold in the city. The Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe had become the subordinates of the stronghold's artificial intelligence. Moreover, there was the Dodi, Gushu, as well as Shui Ro and the other four half-sages. The stronghold would definitely be as stable as Mount Tai. Gushu was formed from a tree. He liked to be quiet and didn't like to move. If he stayed in the city, he wouldn't show any signs of impatience. This kind of person was very suitable. Then, I will give him some benefits. With such a diligent subordinate, it was very suitable for him to stay in the stronghold and cultivate at the same time. There are many suitable cultivation techniques. The Azure Thearka's longevity scripture is too high-end. Give him a lower level one. Liu thought for a while. Since Xiao Feng had already walked the Buddhist path, he might as well pass down another Buddhist cultivation technique in this world. Bodhi Heart Lantern Technique. Since Gushu's body is a Bodhi tree, cultivating the Bodhi Heart Lantern technique using wood to generate fire would be more effective. This will be it. After thinking about the future, Liu laughed and lay on the soft couch, preparing to watch the most exciting show in this world. Chapter 167. Within the underground magma of the Jialan Academy, Hun Tiandi lifted an ancient jade that was overflowing with light in his hand. Enormous dough qi continued to pour into the ancient jade, causing this ancient jade to emit a brilliant light. Rumble. Waves of muffled, intense rumbles were emitted from the underground magma. It seemed as though there was an enormous being slowly rising from the underground magma. The entire magma sea began to boil intensely. Hurry! Faster! Faster! Hun Tiandi's face was filled with excitement as he stared at the boiling magma sea. Both of his eyes revealed a deep desire. Rumble! An enormous stone door slowly rose from the magma amidst Hun Tiandi's anticipation. Bright light flickered within the runes on the towering stone door. An ancient and vast aura spread from the stone door. The entire churning magma sea seemed to have been intimidated by this aura. It instantly became calm without any ripples. A peerless pressure came from all directions. It caused the peak Do Shang-class Hun Tiandi's body to tremble. His breathing had become rough. Such a powerful aura. Who else could it be other than a Dodi? Hun Tiandi laughed wildly in joy. Ancient God Mansion. This is the Ancient God Mansion. Ha 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 ha. As long as I swallow the D pill, I will be able to advance. I will be able to break through and become a Dodi. Ha 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 ha. You are dreaming. A cold laugh was suddenly transmitted from behind him. Hun Tianyi was greatly startled. He hurriedly turned around, only to discover that Gu Yuan had led a group of people and appeared in the underground magma. All of them wore cold smiles as they looked at Hun Tianyi. At this moment, other than the declining Shao clan, the other 8 ancient clans were all present. Damn it! How did they arrive so quickly? Hun Tianyi was both shocked and furious. He quickly understood the reason why these people had arrived. The world's #1 auction house. Bastard. They are definitely the ones who sold the information. Damn it. Hun Tianyi clenched his fist tightly. He clenched his teeth. Just you wait. Once I advance to the Do D class, I will definitely destroy this world's #1 auction house. Hun Tianyi, hand over the ancient god Jade, and we will spare your life. Otherwise, we will definitely tear your body into 10,000 pieces. The leader of the Yin clan pointed at Hun Tianyi and cried out furiously. His bright hair fluttered like raging flames. Yes, hand over the ancient emperor's jade. The others chimed in one after another. Hand over the ancient emperor's jade? Spare my life? Hun Tianyi glanced at everyone. A cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Do you think that I am easy to bully? Do you think I'm not prepared? Spare my life? I want to see who will be spared. Hun Tianyi waved his hand and tore apart the robe in front of his chest, revealing his chest. Many blood-red runes were carved on Hun Tianyi's chest. At this moment, these runes were shining with spiritual light, and a thick smell of blood filled the air. Soul-devouring life, severing formation. Damn it! How could he be so vicious? Where did he set up the array formation? The expressions of everyone present changed drastically when they saw the blood-colored symbol carved on Hun Tianyi's chest. Ha ha! A monstrous blood cloud was formed. Hun Tianyi stood on the blood cloud and floated in midair. He laughed out loud in an unbridled manner. A few years ago, Great Emperor Shrouding Heaven appeared. Not long ago, Great Emperor Greenwood ascended. I am deeply shaken. An endless amount of blood light spread from Hun Tianyi's chest. A blood robe appeared on Hun Tianyi's body. A vast and evil aura came from all directions. Since then, I have made up my mind. Even if I have to stake everything, I must snatch the D pill from the ancient god mansion. I must become a Do D. Hun Tianyi's voice exploded like thunder as the blood cloud shook. Therefore, I have sacrificed the primal chaos cauldron, the Hun realm, all the D clan bloodlines that the Hun clan has collected since ancient times, and the nihility devouring flame. Even, I have thrown myself in. I have refined myself into the eye of the soul-devouring life-severing formation. This formation covers the entire Central Plains. Once the formation is set up, the life force of all the living things in the Central Plains will become my strength. With this formation in my hands, all of you will be unable to withstand a single blow. Within the churning blood clouds, a violent thunderclap suddenly rang out. Blood demon heart, eroding lightning. Hun Tianyi pushed with both hands. Many blood-colored lightning shot out from the blood cloud and struck towards Gu Yuan's group. Bang! 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 The blood cloud in the sky suddenly shrank. An intense bang sounded as though the world was falling apart. An endless amount of blood-colored lightning suddenly shot out from the blood cloud. It was just like a torrential downpour as it shot wildly towards the leaders of the 8 ancient clans below. The strength contained within each blood-colored lightning was sufficient to cause Gu Yuan's group to be shocked. Be careful. This is the secret technique of the Hun clan. It damages one's spirit and is extremely vicious. Gu Yuan's expression was extremely grave as he looked at the blood-colored lightning that came from all directions. He hurriedly reminded everyone. These blood-colored lightning contain an incomparably fierce and resentful aura. If one was struck by it, it would definitely cause the fierce resentment to enter one's body and damage one's spirit. Ancient God Mirror. Gu Yuan roared loudly. An ancient mirror lit up in his hand. A dazzling light turned into a light curtain that forcefully blocked the blood-colored lightning that came smashing down. Bang! Bang! Waves after waves of intense explosions sounded. The entire underground magma was blasted until magma splattered and shook unceasingly. Such an earth-shattering commotion naturally attracted the attention of the Jialan Academy. What's going on? The two brothers, Xiao Yin and Xiao Feng, who had just returned to the Jialan Academy, were chatting with Xiao Sun when they suddenly felt a violent tremor under their feet. A violent and vast power came from underground, causing the entire Jialan Academy to be in a state of chaos. There's the tremor of the power of space and the aura of the Hall of Souls cultivation technique. Xiao Feng frowned slightly. He turned his head and glanced at Xiao Yan. He smiled and said, "The people of the Hall of Souls are still not done. Do they really think that we brothers are easy to bully? Humph. Then let's teach them a lesson." Xiao Yan snorted heavily. The purplish-black flames in his eyes surged. After refining the junior nihility flame, the heavenly flame exploded and swallowed everyone in the Hall of Souls on Death Mountain. Xiao Yan's cultivation soared. If not for the new flame mantra being too heaven-defying, Xiao Yan would have exploded. With the help of the supreme pill spirit, the hidden danger of Xiao Yan swallowing too much energy was eliminated. The flame mantra was promoted to a heaven-rank cultivation technique. His Do-Chi cultivation also rose to the Do-Sheng realm. With a sharp weapon in hand, killing intent rose. With enough strength, Xiao Yan became even more decisive in killing. "Let's go." Xiao Feng nodded. With a wave of his hand, he opened a spatial tunnel. "I'll go too." Xiao Sun had just met Xiao Yan. How could she bear to part with him? She also followed Xiao Yan into the spatial tunnel. With a step, the three of them appeared in the underground space. Below their feet was a churning sea of lava. Above their heads was a thick blood cloud with a fishy smell. The dense blood-red lightning bolts bombarded the light shield below like a rainstorm. Father!" Xiao Sun could not help but cry out when she saw Gu Yuan, who was bitterly holding on with the light barrier. "Your father?" Xiao Feng and Xiao Yin were both shocked. Then father-in-law was beaten? How could this be? How could Xiao Yin let go of this opportunity to show off? Flame-swallowing wave, splitting ruler. Xiao Yin did not say anything. He waved the dark, heavy buster sword and charged forward. Chapter 168. Xiao Yin. Xiao Feng helplessly shook his head when he saw Xiao Yin pick up his weapon and charge forward. A King Kong demon, subduing pole, appeared in his hand as he chased after Xiao Yin. A remnant of the Xiao clan? Han Tiandi glanced at Xiao Yin and snorted coldly. He flicked his finger and a blood-colored lightning flew out. It hacked down on Xiao Yin's head. Crack! The blood-colored lightning broke through the air and arrived. Its enormous strength carried a heart-palpitating evilness, causing one's scalp to turn numb. Angry Buddha, lotus flame. The strength of this lightning caused one's heart to palpitate. Even though Xiao Yin had advanced to the Dosheng class, there was still a huge gap between him and a peak Dosheng like Han Tiandi. Xiao Yin could only unleash his strongest strength in the face of this lightning. Rumble. The purple-black fire lotus bloomed in the air. Hot flames erupted violently. The blood-colored lightning that came smashing down was instantly devoured by this purple-black fire lotus. Nihility, devouring flame? Han Tiandi glanced at Xiao Yin in surprise after his attack failed. He looked at the purple-black fire lotus and frowned. "You are actually no longer an ant?" In that case, Han Tiandi was just planning to add a little more strength to directly destroy Xiao Yin when a thunder suddenly exploded beside his ear. Duo. The thunderous demon, subduing mantra exploded like thunder. The vast heavenly might of eliminating evil suddenly arrived. Puff, puff, puff. The thunder was vast and mighty. A large portion of the blood-colored lightning in Han Tiandi's hand was instantly extinguished. A layer of the blood-colored fog that permeated the surroundings was also swept away. The dense blood cloud had turned into a layer of blood fog. Damn it, what is this? Han Tiandi's expression changed drastically. He was extremely shocked by this strength that was like his nemesis. However, he did not have the time to be shocked. King Kong body protection, demons will avoid it. Virtuous dragon elephant might, King Kong great strength. Immovable like a mountain, no evil can invade. Moving the mountains and filling the seas, mighty warrior might. For incantations were uttered in succession, and a brilliant golden radiance blossomed in the underground space. The radiance was dazzling, and the might was awe-inspiring. He activated the Vajra blessing spell. Dragon and elephant Vajra, divine strength, immovable as a mountain, and mountain-moving force. At this moment, Xiao Feng was awe-inspiring, and his aura shook the heavens. Damn it! In front of Hun Tiandi's astonished eyes, a mighty figure wearing golden armor, whose entire body was flickering with golden splendor, charged over like a towering mountain. Solar primordial flame, solar golden flame. A golden flame lotus blossomed in midair, and the golden flame surged like a raging tide. The brilliant sun illuminated the world. It was as if a sun had risen from the ground. The brilliant and glorious golden flames displayed a dignified and honorable aura. In the midst of this monstrous golden flame, the blood-colored clouds that filled the air were instantly swept away. Flame-swallowing wave, splitting ruler. The dark black heavy Xian ruler had purple-black flames churning on it as it smashed down towards Hun Tiandi. Bang! Hun Tiandi had just been struck by the solar golden flame. He had yet to regain his senses when he was struck by Xiao Yan's ruler. Ah! Hun Tiandi cried out miserably and spat out a mouthful of blood. Vajra glare, divine pestle demon vanquishing. The glowing Vajra demon vanquishing pestle whizzed over. The Vajra strength and endless divine might were contained in this strike. Bang! A loud and muffled sound could be heard. Ah! Hun Tiandi, who had just suffered a blow from Xiao Yan's ruler, was sent flying by Xiao Feng's rod. He spat out blood along the way. At this moment, the blood clouds dissipated, and so did the blood-colored lightning. Gu Yuan put away the light screen and escaped from the endless bombardment of blood-red lightning. That is, everyone saw Xiao Feng, who was covered in golden flames, and Xiao Yan, who was covered in purple-black flames. Then, they saw Hun Tiandi, who was being slapped like a ball. They were extremely shocked. Xiao Feng, Xiao Yan, and Sonair? Gu Yuan opened his mouth wide and couldn't close it for a long time. How many years had it been? That young man, who had begged him back then, already possessed such strength? Gu Yuan felt a little relieved when he thought of great Emperor shrouding heaven standing behind him. However, how did Xiao Yan become so powerful? Damn it, you forced me to do this. Hun Tiandi took 2 hard blows. His entire body was covered in blood, and his face was hideous. He reached out his hand and grabbed at his chest. With a hiss, blood splattered. Hun Tiandi tore off the skin on his chest that was inscribed with blood-colored runes. Soul-devouring life, extinguishing formation, explode. A beam of blood light shot up. Hun Tiandi threw the piece of skin that was inscribed with runes in his hand towards everyone. Boom! An earth-shattering sound could be heard. Endless blood light shot up from the underground space. Monstrous blood clouds covered the entire sky. The sky was filled with ferociousness and a monstrous sea of blood. Everyone was covered in an endless sea of blood. Hun Tiandi self-destructed the soul-devouring life, extinguishing formation. Damn it! Dochi radiance was unleashed violently. Everyone could only do their best to resist the exploding blood clouds. Sonair. The blood clouds exploded. Xiao Yan and Gu Yuan charged up at the same time and landed beside Sonair. One of them held up the ancient mirror. The other one unleashed a wall of flames. Hun Tiandi is really too vicious. Once the soul-devouring life, extinguishing formation explodes, countless people in the central region will die. Xiao Feng was furious. However, he did not have the time to find trouble with Hun Tiandi. He could only deal with the self-destruction of the soul-devouring life, extinguishing formation first. 2 evil souls, flesh and blood. None of them will be spared. If you allow this blood cloud to spread, there won't be many people left in your old lair, the Black Corner region. Supreme Elixir Spirit sighed and said to Xiao Feng, Brat, the grandson primordial flame can purify the evil. Burn it. Aye. Xiao Feng nodded. The solar golden flame swept out like a furious tide. It continued to purify the monstrous sea of blood that had erupted from the underground. Ha ha! Although Hun Tiandi appeared miserable, he was extremely excited. The ancient god cave is mine. The Emperor Pill is mine. I will definitely advance to a Dodi. I will definitely trample all of you under my feet. Ha ha! The Do Chi within his body was poured into the ancient god Jade wildly. A brilliant light shot out and landed on the huge stone door. Buzz, the space within the stone door shook intensely. A huge spatial tunnel was opened. Ha ha! Ancient god cave, I'm coming. Hun Tiandi's figure rose. He laughed wildly and charged into the spatial tunnel within the stone door. Mine! Mine! All mine! Even though his figure had already disappeared into the spatial tunnel, his wanton and crazy cries were still transmitted from afar. The bright sun shone brightly. The vast and mighty golden flame swept across the blood clouds in the sky like a furious tide. A long while later, the blood clouds disappeared and the space became clear. Damn it! Hun Tiandi has entered the ancient god cave. Everyone discovered the spatial tunnel that was opened on the huge stone door after they had cleared the blood clouds. Quick! Quick! We cannot let Hun Tiandi take the lead. Many rays of light shot up. Everyone hurriedly charged into the spatial tunnel. Even Xiao Feng, Xiao Yin, and Xiao Sun Air followed and charged into the spatial tunnel. Young man, you are late. A stone pillar collapsed with a loud bang. Young man, you are late. A large pit was formed on the ground with a bang. Young man, you are late. Hun Tiandi's head collided with the ground with a bang. Ah! Hun Tiandi spat out fresh blood wildly from his mouth. He wildly smashed the ground and kicked the stone pillar. His mouth was shouting these words that no one could understand. So this is the case? Ha! Interesting. Ha! This is too interesting. A huge dragon whose body was emitting purple gold light extended its claws and pressed on its stomach. It rolled around in the void and laughed until it was out of breath. This is what is going on. After entering the ancient emperor's cave abode, what appeared before everyone was a baffling sight. Chapter 169. Are you mocking me? Hun Tiandi, who was so furious that he vomited blood, had nowhere to vent his anger. He immediately flew into a rage when he heard the old dragon's laughter. He lifted his head with a ferocious expression. He stared intently at the old dragon with his red eyes. You dare to mock me? Huh? The old dragon was stunned. His golden eyes blinked twice, and sparks flew out from his nose. Are you venting your anger on me? The great emperor is just teasing you. He wants to play you to death. Yet, you are venting your anger on me? Do you think that I, the old dragon, am a pushover? Huh, you have discovered it? The old dragon's huge head nodded violently. That's right. I am mocking you. Bastard, die. Hun Tiandi roared and charged forward. He waved his hand and threw a blood-colored palm print at the old dragon. After which, roar. A dragon roar shook the sky. A huge dragon claw slammed down violently like a mountain. Rumble. Hun Tiandi was directly smashed into the heavenly flame square by this claw. The huge impact caused the entire heavenly flame square to shake intensely. Hun Tiandi's formation had been broken by a Xiao Feng earlier. Then, the Xiao brothers had joined hands to smash him ruthlessly, forcing him to self-destruct his formation. After which, he vomited blood because of the words, young man, you are late. At this moment, how could he endure after being hit by the old dragon's claw? An ambitious and ruthless person had risked everything in order to advance to a Dodi. He had gambled all his assets. In the end, he realized that everything was a joke. Blood splattered and his soul disappeared. An ambitious and ruthless person had been played to death by Li Yu just like that. Hun Tiandi died just like that. The eyes of Gu Yuan and the rest were dull. This old enemy that they had fought for their entire lives had died in such a baffling manner. More importantly, what did he mean when he said, "Young man, you're late"? What did Hun Tiandi see in the ancient god cave? What exactly happened? What exactly did this expert from the dragon tribe see in the ancient god cave? Everyone's eyes turned towards the old dragon. Judging from his mocking tone, he definitely knew something. What did he see? Ha ha! The old dragon laughed out loud again. He laughed so hard that his huge dragon body twisted and turned like an earthworm. As he laughed, the old dragon stretched out a claw and pointed at the ground of the heavenly flame square. Isn't it right there? Take a look for yourselves. On the ground, everyone was slightly startled and quickly looked in the direction the old dragon was pointing at. Then they saw a string of words written in bold strokes. "Young man, you're late." This string of words seemed to have been carved by a blade, revealing its sharpness and extraordinary aura. However, everyone was focused on the meaning of this sentence. Late, late, late. Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at each other. Ha ha ha! Of course he was late, because someone had already been here. Ha ha ha! The old dragon laughed out loud again, laughing so hard that his whole body was trembling. What? Did someone beat him to it? Someone else beat us to it? Damn it! Who is so bold? Don't let me find out who it is, or I won't let him off. Everyone was furious when they heard the old dragon's words. They clenched their teeth and cursed. This expert from the dragon tribe, can you tell me who took the ancient emperor? Gu Yuan cupped his hands together towards the old dragon. He wanted to ask who had beaten him to it. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. The old dragon's body trembled when he heard this. His laughter stopped abruptly. There was some fear in his eyes. His body swayed, turned around, and charged out of the cave. Only the words "I didn't see anything, I didn't see anything" were still reverberating in the air. Ugh! Gu Yuan let out a long sigh. His expression was desolate as he shook his head. No one present was a fool. How many people in the world could scare the old dragon to such an extent? Who else could it be other than a Dodi? Of course, the greatest suspect was the #1 auction house in the world. He had nearly emptied his family's fortune. In the end, he only received the words, "Young man, you're late." How could everyone endure this? Fortunately, there was the unlucky Hun Tiandi at the front. He was miserable, but there was someone in front of him who was even more miserable than him. Hence, everyone felt a strange sense of balance in their hearts. Thus, the grand treasure hunt in the ancient emperor's cave abode ended miserably. Everyone left the ancient emperor cave dejectedly. They had just walked out from the huge stone door when a figure stood above the lava sea. This caused everyone to tremble in fear. It was a young man wearing a green long robe. This person stood in the air with an indifferent expression. A deep and vast sea like starry sky that was filled with vitality rippled. This caused the entire underground lava to become calm and caused the surrounding Yuan Qi to descend into silence. It was as though everything in front of him was submitting to this figure. This included the old dragon who had charged out of the ancient emperor cave. At this moment, the old dragon was obediently lying on the lava sea. He did not even dare to move. This is the Greenwood Great Emperor? Everyone immediately thought of the origin of this person when they sensed the vast vitality aura. However, why did the Greenwood Great Emperor come here? There is no need to panic. Gu Shu smiled and nodded at everyone. Then, he turned to the Xiao brothers at the side. "I am Gu Shu. You are Xiao Feng and Xiao Yan, right? My honorable lord wants to see you. Come with me." Honorable lord? Everyone staggered when they heard the honorable lord from Gu Shu's mouth. They almost fell into the lava. The honorable lord of Dudi? The Greenwood Great Emperor actually has an honorable lord. Who is this person? Who can become the honorable lord of Dudi? Wants to see us. Xiao Feng and Xiao Yan exchanged glances. They were confused. Why would the person whom the Greenwood Great Emperor address as honorable lord want to see us? Sigh. Grand Elixir Spirit let out a long sigh. His voice was filled with bitterness. This day has finally come. Xiao Feng, this person wants to see you. You must go. Teacher, what is going on? Does it have anything to do with you? Hearing Grand Elixir Spirit's words, Xiao Feng's expression changed. He became nervous. Xiao Feng, have you never thought about where I came from? Grand Elixir Spirit laughed bitterly. It has been so long. I believe you have already discovered it. Yes, I am not a person. Just like the deviant fire and the elixir, I am the manifestation of the scroll in your mind. At this point, Grand Elixir Spirit sighed. Since it is a scroll, of course there is a master. Teacher, Xiao Feng turned pale with fright. He held the Vajra demon, subduing pestle tightly in his hand. Teacher, could it be that he wants to take you back? Will he do something bad to you? Don't be nervous. Grand Elixir Spirit shook his head. He won't do anything to me, nor will he do anything to you. How can an existence like him make things difficult for us? All right, then let's go see this honorable lord. Xiao Feng nodded and said to Xiao Yin, this honorable lord has something to do with my teacher. We must go see him. It has something to do with your teacher? Xiao Yan's eyes lit up. Who could be related to the Grand Elder? Chapter 170. With one step, the three of them appeared at the entrance of the auction house. Xiao Feng looked at the familiar surroundings and blinked his eyes. He was very surprised. Wu Yuan City? Xiao Yin turned his head and looked around, his face full of shock. Yes, this is Wu Yuan City. At the entrance of the auction house, Yafei walked up with a smile. Experience was the foundation. Experience was the essence. After presiding over that soul-stirring auction, Yafei's face was still pretty, but her bearing had become graceful and unruffled. Welcome to the world's #1 auction house. Yafei gestured with her hand and smiled at the two of them. The Honorable Lord is waiting for you upstairs. Please come in. Oh, okay. Xiao Feng and Xiao Yin both nodded and followed Yafei into the auction house. As they walked through the door, the white, jade-like walls flickered with a faint fluorescent light, giving off an indescribable aura. It was as if the faint cry of a wan phoenix was ringing in their ears. As they walked up the stairs, they saw 4 golden-haired figures with vast auras standing at the stairway to the second floor. Their eyes were shining with golden flames. Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe? Seeing the 4 figures with vast auras, Xiao Feng and Xiao Yin both trembled. The auras of these 4 people were not weaker than theirs. They were clearly Doushangs. For Doushangs could only guard the door. Turning their heads to look at the great green wood tree beside them, the Xiao brothers felt relieved. Even a Dou Di could only run errands. What was so strange about a Doushangs guarding the door? Honorable Lord, the Xiao brothers are here. Arriving at the door on the second floor, Gu Shu bowed with cupped fists and reported to the door. Come in. A faint voice sounded in the room, and the door opened with a creak. Go in. Yafei gestured to Xiao Feng and Xiao Yin before retreating to the door. Let's go. Xiao Feng took a deep breath and nodded to Xiao Yin. No matter what he faced next, he could only face it calmly. When they stepped into the room and saw the situation inside, both of them were dumbfounded. It was as if he had stepped into another dimension. In front of him was a sky full of purple haze. A purple-gold lotus platform floated up from the mist, and an otherworldly young man sat cross-legged on the lotus platform. Immortal clouds swirled around, and purple chi came from the east. Nothingness is the beginning of heaven and earth. Yes, it is called the mother of all creation. A faintly discernible heavenly voice of the great Tao reverberated in the air. Lotus flowers bloomed and withered in the surroundings, forming a cycle of life and death. It was an instant, but it was also an eternity. Seeing this scene, Xiao Feng and Xiao Yin were shocked. He felt as if he was in the era of the birth of all living things. When the heavens and the earth were first separated, yin and yang coexisted, giving birth to all living things. The creation of the heavens and the earth, the cycle of life and death. Taoist scriptures are indeed mysterious. In a purple-gold lotus platform, Liu slowly opened his eyes. All kinds of scenes flowed in his eyes. It was like yin and yang, and all things were born. When the Xiao brothers came in, Liu was comprehending the Taoist scriptures. For a moment, he was in a trance, but the phenomenon that manifested frightened the Shao brothers. Greetings, Supreme Lord. Intimidated by this aura, the Shao brothers hurriedly knelt in front of Liu. Huh, get up. Liu chuckled and waved his hand lightly. Lifting his eyes and sweeping a glance at Shao Feng, Liu's gaze looked at the ring in Shao Feng's hand. Alchemy spirit, you've already come to see me. What are you still hiding for? Cough, cough. An awkward cough sounded. Shao Feng's ring flashed with a spiritual light. A white-haired, youthful, and simple-looking old man in a Taoist robe appeared in the room. Alchemy spirit greets Supreme Lord. After the Supreme Alchemy spirit appeared, he hurriedly knelt in front of Liu respectfully. This. Seeing the Supreme Alchemy spirit emerge from Shao Feng's ring, seeing the simple-looking old man's image, Xiao Yan's entire body trembled, and he couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Cousin, what's wrong with you? Hearing Xiao Yan's exclamation, Xiao Feng's heart tightened. He hurriedly pulled Xiao Yan and asked in a low voice. You? Xiao Yan's heart was already in turmoil. He pointed at the Supreme Alchemy spirit and shouted in surprise, You are the Supreme Tao Ancestor? Tao Ancestor? I. When Liu created the Supreme Alchemy spirit, he directly used the appearance of the Old Lord. At this moment, seeing the Supreme Alchemy spirit's image, Xiao Yan was so shocked that he jumped up. Wasn't the Supreme Alchemy spirit's appearance the Supreme Tao Ancestor in the Taoist temple? I'm not the Supreme Tao Ancestor. The Supreme Alchemy spirit smiled bitterly and shook his head. Then, he looked at Liu awkwardly and bowed down. My lord, please forgive me. I look like this after I transform. I didn't mean to offend you. All right, get up. Liu chuckled and waved his hand indifferently. Then, Liu turned his head to look at the Shao brothers and nodded with a smile. I am the Supreme Alchemy Spirit. What? You? Hearing these 4 words, hearing the language engraved in his soul, Xiao Yan screamed and jumped up. In this world, others also call me the heaven-shrouding Great Emperor. Liu smiled and said something that made people jump up in shock. Heaven-shrouding Great Emperor. Shao Feng remembered the origin of the sun primordial flame and remembered that the Supreme Alchemy Spirit had told him that it didn't matter even if he pretended to be the successor of the heaven-shrouding Great Emperor. So, this was the reason? I traveled around the world and accidentally came to this world. Liu smiled at the Shao brothers and continued. I like alchemy. You should know this. At this point, Liu looked up at Xiao Yan. Yes, disciple knows. Xiao Yan bowed respectfully to Liu. The Supreme Alchemy Spirit was famous for alchemy. Who didn't know? The alchemy methods of this world also have some unique points, so I understood a little. Then, he recorded down his own experiences. I didn't expect. Liu pointed at the Supreme Alchemy Spirit and shook his head with a smile. I didn't expect the rules of this world to be so strange. It's very easy for foreign species to develop intelligence and transform. The book that I recorded, The Alchemy Method, became him. He was about to leave. Liu naturally had to give his Supreme Alchemy Spirit a background and then tell him frankly to prevent Shao Feng from having any suspicions in the future. Lord's good fortune, Alchemy Spirit will never forget. The Supreme Alchemy Spirit bowed again. All right. Liu waved his hand, indicating for the Supreme Alchemy Spirit to get up. Since he has already transformed, I might as well fulfill his wish. I refined a ring for him as a foundation and then let him out. A few years ago, when I passed by this world, I came in on a whim to take a look again. I didn't expect him to be fated with you. Liu looked at Shao Feng and nodded. Fine, since you guys get along well. I won't interfere with you guys. Liu waved his hand, and a medicinal pill with flowing light appeared in his hand. This is the so-called Emperor Pill in this world. Since you hit it off with Alchemy Spirit, you could be considered to have some fate with I might as well fulfill your wish. With a wave of his hand, the Emperor Pill landed in Shao Feng's hand. Kid, hurry up and thank me. The Supreme Alchemy Spirit slapped the dumbfounded Shao Feng awake. Xiao Feng hurriedly knelt down. Thank you, Lord, for your generous gift. With this Emperor Pill, you can advance to a Dodi. You can also go to the outside world to take a look. Xiao Feng was the system host that Li Yu had chosen. Of course, he had to let him conquer the boundless world. Otherwise, Xiao Feng could only stay in this world. What benefits could he bring to Li Yu? Therefore, giving him the Emperor Pill and letting him advance to a Dodi was an inevitable choice. As for you, after dealing with Xiao Feng's matter, Li Yu chuckled and turned to look at Xiao Yan. Dao Ancestor. Xiao Yan looked at Li Yu with a salivating face. This was a Dao Ancestor. The things that leaked out from the gaps between the Dao Ancestor's fingers were enough for us to eat for a lifetime. How could Xiao Yan let go of such an opportunity? Of course, he wanted to get some benefits from the Dao Ancestor. Of course, you won't be left out. Li nodded his head at Xiao Yan and smiled. To think that a descendant of the Yellow Emperor would end up in this place. Your fate is indeed extraordinary. Since I've met you, how can I not care? This is the flame origin of this world. It's very compatible with your path. With it, you can also advance to Dodi. Li Yu waved his hand, and a bronze box landed in Xiao Yan's hand. I have also seen the cultivation method that you cultivate and made some adjustments. With this cultivation method, you can cultivate the 3 true flames' divine ability. I hope that you will not disgrace the reputation of the Yin Huang lineage in the future. Thank you, Dao Ancestor. This disciple obeys. Xiao Yan tightly grasped the bronze box in his hand and bowed respectfully. Okay, today's fate is over. You can leave. Yes. Thank you, Dao Ancestor, for your generous gift. We will take our leave. The Xiao brothers bowed deeply and then left. The Supreme Elixir Spirit naturally returned to Xiao Feng's ring and left with them. After walking out of the auction house, Xiao Yan excitedly pulled Xiao Feng and cried out with joy, Brother Feng, good luck. Great good luck. I didn't expect that we would be able to meet the Dao Ancestor. Yes, teacher also told me the origin of the Dao Ancestor just now. I didn't expect that we would be able to meet such a person. Xiao Feng touched the ring on his hand and was also very happy. Brother Feng, we will be able to advance to a Dodi soon. Then we must have a resounding name. Xiao Yan looked at Xiao Feng excitedly and said with shining eyes, I cultivate with heavenly flame. I will be called Yindi. Brother Feng, your cultivation method seems to be of the earth attribute. How about you be called Huangdi? Huangdi? Xiao Feng blinked his eyes. He didn't know the origin of this name, but seeing Xiao Yan's eager face, he could only nod his head and agree. All right, let's call him the Yellow Emperor. The Supreme Elixir Spirit passed the discussion of the 2 brothers. Li was drinking water. When he saw this situation, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of water and almost choked. What the hell? Yindi? Huangdi? From now on, the Xiao family will become the descendants of Yin Huang? Chapter 171. I'm going back. After imparting the Bodhi Heart Lamp technique to the ancient tree, Liu handed over the task of guarding the store. He walked to the window and opened it to look at the world outside. He smiled and shook his head. As a plane of the vast 1,000 domains, this world is still very valuable. In the future, Xiao Feng and Xiao Yan will be able to bring in endless benefits when they conquer the vast 1,000 domains. Liu smiled and turned to look at the ancient tree, Qing Yao, Shui Rou, and the rest. He waved his hand gently. I'll leave the auction house to you guys. I'm leaving. Farewell, Lord. The ancient tree and the rest bowed. Guard this place well for me. Liu smiled and nodded. He ordered the system in his mind. System return. A faint light flashed, and Liu's figure disappeared instantly in the immortal residence of the store space. With a flash of light, Liu's figure appeared in the garden of the immortal residence. After opening the store space, I can determine the location of my return. This is pretty good. Liu nodded in satisfaction. This return was much safer and more concealed than the last time when he appeared directly in the chores yard dormitory. If he appeared directly outside like last time, if he happened to meet someone, it would be troublesome. Now that he returned directly to the store space, it was naturally much safer. He looked up at the garden of the immortal residence. It was still very barren at the moment. Other than the jade-green lotus pond, there was only the verdant Bodhi tree. This time, I've harvested a few special flowers and trees. I can plant them in the garden. Glancing at the dragon phoenix origin fruit tree and the green lotus that gave birth to the green lotus hellfire, Liu smiled. System, can I plant the dragon phoenix origin fruit tree and the hellfire green lotus? Yes. But the dragon phoenix origin fruit tree does not have the conditions to give birth to fruits. To plant the hellfire green lotus, I need to modify the lava pool. I don't need it to bear fruit in the first place. Liu reached out and took out the dragon and phoenix origin fruit tree. This thing isn't even 3 feet tall. Let's just treat it as a bonsai. Liu walked to the pavilion in the middle of the garden and chose a flower pot placed on a stone platform. He reached out and planted the dragon and phoenix origin fruit tree into the pot. A wisp of profound yellow chi swirled around, and the dragon phoenix origin fruit tree was planted in the flower pot. This thing is just a bonsai for now, but if we can find the corpses of true dragons and true phoenixes in the future, we might be able to cultivate something amazing. Liu glanced at this small tree with a dragon and a phoenix intertwined with each other. He was looking forward to the future of this small tree. The earth-fire green lotus is a little troublesome. Liu glanced around the garden and felt that a lava pool in the garden was really unsightly. System, do you have any suggestions for the Terraflame green lotus? The immortal mansion includes the kitchen, the pill hall, and other functional buildings. User can consider placing the earth-fire green lotus in one of these places. Kitchen? Pill hall? Liu was slightly startled. Then he smiled. All right, the kitchen won't be of any use for now. Let's go with the pill hall then. Most of the gains this time were related to alchemy. It was time to sort out the pill hall. Walking out of the garden of the immortal mansion, Liu walked along the long corridor and arrived at a hall on the east side of the immortal mansion. This is the pill hall? Liu smiled and shook his head. After this immortal mansion was built, he didn't stay in it for long. Although he knew that there were functional buildings in the immortal mansion, it was his first time seeing one. He reached out and pushed open the door. After entering the door, he saw a vast hall. Then it was empty inside. The medicine storeroom was empty. The medicine storeroom was empty. There was only a row of empty bookshelves in the pill hall's library. The pill hall hasn't been activated yet. Liu shook his head. The gains this time should be enough to activate the pill hall. System, transfer the alchemy techniques recorded in the resource storeroom to the pill hall's library in the form of a book scroll. Voila! An invisible wave of energy swept across the bookshelf, and all sorts of books appeared on it. What surprised Liu was that other than the medicine master knowledge from Xiaofeng's world, there were even alchemy techniques from Zhou Yi's world. Oh, Zhou Yi's world also has alchemy techniques. Liu thought for a while. Then, he recalled that his world also had alchemy techniques. There's no need to bring out the medicine ingredients. Before returning this time, Liu had emptied the Soul Clan's treasury. Naturally, he wouldn't lack medicine ingredients. However, those medicine ingredients weren't very versatile. He wouldn't use them often in the future. Therefore, there was no need to put them in the medicine storeroom. After building the shopping center, he could just take whatever he needed from the storeroom. There was no need to put the medicine ingredients here. Next, it's the pill cauldron and furnace fire. Liu naturally wouldn't lack these things. He waved his hand, and a row of shining pill cauldrons appeared in the hall. During the auction, Liu had almost swept the entire heavenly cauldron list. This row of pill cauldrons was sufficient for now. I don't lack furnace fire either. Liu had swept the heavenly flame list clean. Even the nihility devouring flame was sold to Liu by Hun Tiandi. These heavenly flames were flames used for alchemy. Therefore, they were naturally very suitable to be used here. System, with the nihility devouring flame as the foundation, merge all the heavenly flames and form the imperial flame. Following Liu's order, the nihility devouring flame in the resource storeroom let out a miserable shriek. All sorts of heavenly flames merged into the nihility devouring flame, continuously. In the end, a purple flame shone brightly in the resource storeroom. So this fellow isn't dead yet? It was only then that Liu recalled that he didn't kill the nihility-devouring flame after keeping it. After thinking for a while, Liu had an idea. System, retain its intelligence. Clear all the memories of the nihility-devouring flame. Reshape its appearance into a small fire dragon. Memory cleared. Appearance completed. Very soon, a small purple fire dragon appeared in the resource storeroom. Not bad. Liu nodded his head and walked to the side of the fire pool in the middle of the hall. System, transfer the earthly lava fire in the immortal mansion light and build a lava pool in the fire pool. Boom! The fire pool shook violently. A lava pool with raging flames appeared in front of Liu. Plant the earthly fire green lotus. With a wave of his hand, Liu threw the earthly fire green lotus into the lava pool. A ray of green light shone brightly. The earthly fire green lotus fell into the lava pool. Its long roots stretched out and the green light flickered. Now, only the nihility-devouring flame is left. Liu waved his hand. A 3 feet long purple fire dragon flew out and fell into the lava pool. It swam around the earthly fire green lotus happily. System, set the earthly fire green lotus and the nihility-devouring flame as the pill hall's pill fire. A formless wave swept past. The earthly fire green lotus and the purple fire dragon formed by the nihility-devouring flame were bound to the pill hall. They were included in the system of the shop space. Their life and death were in Liu's hands. Very good. The pill hall has been activated. Chapter 172. How should I deal with the lightning pool? Walking out of the pill hall, Liu looked at the lightning pool in the resource storage and frowned slightly. At the beginning, Liu planned to put the lightning pool in the Immortal Estates garden to accompany the sword pool. However, Liu realized that there was a problem with the lightning pool. That is, it was very noisy. The continuous sound of thunder was too noisy in the garden. The noise was too loud and did not match the peaceful garden at all. Looking around, Liu saw the hall opposite the pill hall. His eyes brightened. That was the smithing pavilion. Liu's target was not this smithing pavilion, but the ancient well between the smithing pavilion and the pill hall. This place is rather remote. Also, I'll place it in the well and set up a soundproof formation at the mouth of the well. That way, there won't be any noise. Liu walked to the side of the ancient well and looked at the mouth of the well. He nodded. Right now, there's only mortal water in the well. If I put the lightning pool in, I can use the lightning energy to refine pills and tools in the future. It's very convenient. System, put the lightning pool in the ancient well and set up a soundproof formation at the mouth of the well. He pointed at the mouth of the well. A bolt of lightning flashed out. Bolts of lightning burst out from the well like a silver dragon. The sound of thunder rumbled. In an instant, the lightning receded and the sound of thunder calmed down. Only a pool of lightning water was left. It rippled at the mouth of the well and emitted a vast lightning energy. It's done. Liu clapped his hands and turned to leave. He didn't gain much this time. Other than these, he was only left with the ancient world heavenly tomb. Of course, if he wanted to calculate, there were also all kinds of knowledge and skills. There was also the pure soul energy refined from the countless souls in the heavenly tomb. Knowledge and skills could only enrich the resource storage. The soul energy was useful. However, Liu hadn't started the spirit refinement yet. He didn't need to use the pure soul energy yet. How should I deal with the ancient world heavenly tomb? Liu walked towards the main hall of the Immortal Estate while thinking. The ancient world heavenly tomb was a space of its own. It contained a vast amount of energy and countless soul energy bodies. At this moment, the soul energy body had already been broken down by Liu. Only a huge space and a huge amount of energy were left in the heavenly tomb. For now, I can only use it as another energy source. Liu usually used the system's functions or exchange for some one-time use skills, which required energy. In the past, apart from using the energy points stored in the system, most of the energy sources were from the crocodile ancestor's body and the heart of the demon god. Now that the heart of the demon god had been refined into the green lotus clone, the energy in the crocodile ancestor's body would be depleted gradually. Sooner or later, it would be depleted. The energy replenishment from the heavenly tomb was also very suitable. Then let's leave it at that for now. Liu smiled and got up to leave them all space. At this moment, the system notification sounded. System notification. User has completed the first stage of the advancement mission. The first shopping center had been established, and the shopping center had met the requirements for expansion. Do you want to expand? Yeah. Can we expand the store space? Liu's footsteps paused, and he was a little surprised. System, didn't you say that the shop space will only be expanded when I upgrade my authority? The shopping center has been established. Through the shopping center, the space energy of the target world can be absorbed to expand the shop space. I see. Liu understood the reason for the expansion of the shop space this time. It wasn't an upgrade of authority to expand the shop space, but using the shopping center to absorb the space energy of the target world to expand the shop space. This method of expansion was very effective when the shop space was still small. When the shop space became vast and boundless, unless it swallowed a world, this method was meaningless. Then let's expand. Now is the best time to expand the shop space with this method. Liu certainly wouldn't waste this opportunity. Following Liu's order, the entire shop space shook violently. A huge and invisible force poured into the shop space. The chaotic aura at the edge of the space suddenly boiled. Like a balloon being blown up, the shop space shook violently and expanded by a large circle. This expansion, after the expansion of the shop space was completed, Liu shook his head with a bitter smile when he saw the situation after the expansion. Sure enough, opportunistic expansion won't work. After this expansion, the shop space had indeed increased by a circle, and the space had become even more vast. However, the 9 floating islands were still the same, and there was no growth at all. By absorbing the power of space, the only thing that can expand is space. But other things won't expand. This is different from the expansion of the authority upgrade. The expansion of the authority upgrade is the expansion of space and Earth together. Liu shook his head. Looks like I still have to work hard to upgrade the authority. The construction of the shop space was only this for the time being. Liu glanced around the shop space and found that he hadn't even completed the construction of the immortal abode, and the 9 floating islands hadn't been built yet. Although the floating islands had green mountains and clear waters, they were just ordinary water and wood, and were completely worthless. I still haven't collected enough resources. Liu sighed and was somewhat dissatisfied with the progress of his plundering. I've been in Xiao Feng's world for a few years, and Zhou Yi's world has also been a few years, right? You should have gained a lot, right? Thinking of this, Liu hurriedly asked the system, has Zhou Yi turned in resources over these years? Why didn't I see it? The host of the Book of the Highest Heavens, Zhou Yi, has turned in resources many times. Because the user is not in the main world, the resources turned in are automatically stored in the shop space. Does the user want to check? Oh, the resources have been turned in? Liu nodded and asked the system again, why can the recovered resources only be stored in the shop space when I'm not in the main world? According to the auxiliary function set by the user. In order to protect the user's interests, the energy consumed by the transmission of resources is reduced. The system will automatically store the recovered resources in the shop space. Does this setting need to be modified? I see. Then there's no need to change it. Liu nodded and then instructed the system, make a list of the resources turned in by Zhou Yi for me to see. With a swish, the system made a list in Liu's mind. Most of them are source stones. Liu glanced at the list and found that most of them were all kinds of source stones. The corpses are sent up again. Seeing the string of corpses on the list, Liu's mouth twitched a few times. Zhou Yi's path of no return of killing monsters and leveling up was getting farther and farther away. In addition, there were a few things that surprised Liu. This is the Qilin immortal medicine. This golden blood is the blood of the sacred battle ape. And Fairy Linglong, Dragon Ball. Seeing these things, Liu laughed happily. Ha! Zhou did a good job. Chapter 173. Qilin immortal medicine. This is a good thing. Liu was so happy that he danced with joy and hurriedly asked the system, System, where is the thing stored? Is it in the immortal mansion's warehouse? Yes. Hearing the system's answer, Liu hurriedly rushed to the immortal mansion's warehouse. In a moment, Liu hurriedly arrived at the immortal mansion's warehouse. In front of him was a huge hall, and the tightly closed bronze door sealed the warehouse tightly. Creak! He reached out and pushed, and the door opened. Many things were placed in the storeroom according to different categories. Source stones of various attributes were stored in huge boxes. Liu had just entered when a huge box automatically opened, revealing the shining and brilliant source stones of various colors. These things were just energy. After Liu glanced at it, he didn't pay much attention to it. Liu's gaze turned to the display rack in front of him. There was a very small Qilin there. The Qilin's entire body seemed to be cast in gold, and it was only about 3 inches in size. It had a dragon's head, antlers, lion's eyes, a tiger's back, and a bear's waist. There were divine runes on its back. From afar, it was a small Qilin curled up and sleeping. Of course, this was not a Qilin, but the immortal medicine. A rich fragrance filled the air. Smelling this scent, Liu felt his entire body relax. Every pore on his body opened up as if they were eagerly inhaling this fragrant scent. As expected of the immortal medicine, Liu moved closer to the display rack and stared at the immortal Qilin herb for a while. He couldn't stop praising it. The immortal medicine could be said to be the top treasure of Zhou Yi's world. Becoming a great emperor could only increase one's lifespan by 10,000 years. However, with the immortal medicine, the great emperor could live another life. A treasure that could allow the great emperor to live another life could be imagined how precious it was. Good. Very good. This thing is really too good. With a wave of his hand, Liu directly put the immortal medicine into the resource warehouse, planning to plant it in the immortal mansion's garden later. After putting away the immortal Kirin herb, Liu's gaze turned to a jade box at the side. He reached out to pick up the jade box and gently opened the lid. A fist-sized ball of golden blood was trembling slightly inside the box. Oh! Suddenly, an unyielding roar resounded in Liu's ears. This roar was filled with an unyielding and fearless spirit that could fight against the heavens and the earth. Good heavens! As expected of the Monkey King. Seeing this drop of golden blood, Liu was also very happy. This was the blood of the sacred battle ape, which represented an extremely powerful tribe. With this drop of blood, Liu could get the system to analyze the bloodline of the sacred battle ape. If there was a need in the future, it would not be a bad idea to create some sacred battle apes as fighters. After putting away the jade box, Liu turned his attention to the third item. It was a piece of exquisite jade that shone with 9 colors of dazzling light. The jade was flat and oval-shaped on the front. It was only the size of a chicken egg and was sparkling with 9 colors. It was exceptionally beautiful and dazzling, like a peerless treasure. The jade was like a coiling dragon with 9 hollowed holes. It was perfectly round and natural. The 9 holes hummed in the wind, producing a heavenly sound. The heavenly sound was like the sound of the great Tao, mysterious and unfathomable. Once this sound was heard, it was as if an immortal had descended to the mortal world. It exuded an aura of transcendence, making one feel relaxed and happy. Good stuff. Good stuff. Liu reached out and picked up the immortal Linglong. He could not help but praise it. If the immortal Linglong was nourished by immortal qi, it could explain the great Tao of heaven and earth and turn into a peerless immortal scripture. But for now, the immortal Linglong was just a musical instrument. It was useless. To Liu, although he could not get immortal qi now, it did not mean that he could not get in the future. More importantly, even now, this thing was still very useful. The heavenly sound was mysterious and unfathomable. It was really the best tool to show off. If used well, this item could bring great benefits to Li Yu. After putting away the immortal Ling Long, Li Yu's gaze landed on the last item. It was a simple and unadorned stone orb. It looked like an ordinary stone orb, but it was faintly surrounded by dragon chi. He could even hear a heaven-shaking dragon roar. It's just a dragon formed from the essence of the mountains and rivers. It was nurtured by heaven and earth and gave birth to dragon chi. It's not true dragon chi, and it's definitely not a true dragon. Li Yu reached out and picked up the stone orb. He shook it lightly in his hand. Faintly, another dragon roar could be heard. I'll place this dragon chi under the main island. In the future, I'll turn it into a dragon vein. After putting away the stone orb, Li Yu turned to look at the origin stones in the box. With a wave of his hand, all the origin stones were stored in the system's storage. Then, he walked out of the storage room. Walking into the garden of the immortal mansion, Li Yu took out the Dragon Ball stone orb. He reached out and pressed the Dragon Ball stone orb into the ground. Li Yu gave an order to the system. System, turn the Dragon Ball stone orb into the main island's dragon chi. Bury the origin stones as well to nourish the dragon chi. Roar! The ground shook slightly, and a heaven-shaking dragon roar could be faintly heard. A large number of origin stones were also buried underground. The majestic spiritual chi nourished the dragon chi. In an instant, the entire main island seemed to have come alive, blooming with endless vitality. Not bad. Li Yu smiled and nodded. When the dragon vein grows, the spiritual chi in this space will be even more abundant. Now, I have to find a place to plant the immortal Qilin herb. Li Yu looked around the garden of the immortal mansion. Between the Bodhi tree and the lotus pond, he found a small hill. Walking up the hill, Li Yu placed the immortal Qilin herb at the top of the hill. System, plant the immortal Qilin herb. Under Li Yu's order, a large amount of black and yellow chi rushed out from the ground. Boundless spiritual chi gathered, and a majestic vitality bloomed. Roar! A brilliant light bloomed from the ground, and the image of a Qilin appeared in midair. The Qilin image roared into the sky. The ground suddenly shook violently. A thick sapling broke out of the ground and grew rapidly. A few moments later, a 10-feet-tall golden tree appeared in front of Li Yu. This tree was not tall, but its stem was thick and strong. Its branches and leaves were fat, and it looked as majestic as the earth. Layers of golden scales could be vaguely seen on the surface of the tree, and there were also countless mysterious divine runes on the surface. A gentle breeze blew, and the leaves swayed. Loud beastly roars could be heard. Good. What a good immortal Qilin herb. Seeing the immortal Qilin herb grow, Li Yu was very happy. With this thing, his future cultivation path would be more secure. After the immortal Qilin herb was planted in the garden of the immortal mansion, it was included in the system of the merchant shop. From now on, Li Yu could use the power of the immortal Qilin herb at any time. With the immortal Qilin herb's effects, even a great emperor could be reborn. As long as Li Yu was not beaten to a pulp, he would be able to recover in an instant. I'm finally done. The immortal Ling Long could only be used as a jade pendant for now. The sacred battle ape bloodline could not be used for now. There was nothing else to build in the merchant shop. Little Ting Ting, big brother is back. Li Yu chuckled. His figure flashed as he stepped out of the store. Chapter 174. With one step, Li Yu's figure appeared in the courtyard of the river-gazing peak. Big brother, you're back. Little Ting Ting had just appeared in the courtyard and was talking to her blue lotus avatar. As soon as she saw Li Yu, she cried out in joy and ran over in a few steps. I'm back. Li Yu chuckled and bent down to pick up Little Ting Ting, putting her on his shoulder. Little Ting Ting stretched out her hands and rubbed Li Yu's ears, laughing nonstop. Walking in front of the Azure Lotus avatar, Li Yu and the Azure Lotus avatar looked at each other. The connection between their souls allowed Li Yu to instantly receive the message from the Azure Lotus Avatar. The Tao Ascension ceremony is in 3 days. After receiving the message from the Azure Lotus Avatar, a strange smile appeared on Li Yu's face. He found a stone stool beside the Azure Lotus Avatar and sat down. Li Yu put little Tingting down from his shoulder. Has little Tingting been good these days? Li Yu stretched out his hand and scratched little Tingting's nose as he asked with a smile. Little Tingting has been very good. Little Tingting bounced around Li Yu and pulled on Li Yu's sleeve, making a funny face as she answered with a smile. Little Tingting needs to cultivate seriously with Big Brother Azure Lotus. Li Yu rubbed little Tingting's head and nodded with a smile. In these days, the Azure Lotus Avatar began to teach little Tingting the Lunar Sutra that Li Yu had left behind. For the time being, she was just familiarizing herself with cultivation and understanding the meaning of the cultivation method. She hadn't officially started cultivating yet. However, the Lunar Sutra existed because of the lunar physique. It could be foreseen that little Tingting's cultivation would definitely increase rapidly in the future. However, little Tingting's growth was very slow. A year in the alternate world was a day in the main world. Li Yu's cultivation would definitely increase very quickly. Who knew how long it would take for little Tingting to grow up and her cultivation to mature? How about bringing little Tingting along next time? A thought flashed through Li Yu's mind, but he temporarily put it aside. Let's talk about it the next time we enter the other world. The Tao Ascension ceremony is in 3 days. Li Yu's mind was now focused on the plan for the Tao Ascension ceremony. There is no need for Li Yu to worry about the Tao Ascension ceremony. There were plenty of people on Canwu Mountain who were busy with it. What really piqued Li Yu's interest was the people from various sects who had come to congratulate him. In this world, there were 10 Confucian holy lands, 9 Tao grotto heavens, and 8 great Buddhist temples. These forces would definitely send people to congratulate him. These sects' legacies spanned over thousands of years. There must be countless books and records in the sect. Li Yu had scanned through the books that Kangwu Academy had accumulated for 10,000 years, and he had gained a great understanding of this world. However, the more he understood, the more doubts he had. For example, this world was very small. Without a large enough world, how could a powerful individual be born? How could this world give birth to such a tyrannical existence as a supreme master? The continent was surrounded by the sea. It traveled along the sea, but eventually returned to the continent. It was as if this world was a planet with only one continent, and the rest was ocean. However, was this really the case? If the planet was so small, why was the horizon so flat? The curvature was completely wrong. Also, what was the name of this continent? It seemed that other than the names Middle Earth and Hua, there was no general name for this continent. More importantly, Li Yu felt that there was something wrong with this world. According to the Tao Ascension rules of this world, the Azure Lotus clone had to understand its own Tao and practice its own Tao before it could achieve Tao. However, Li Yu did not even know what Tao he had. The Azure Lotus Imperial weapon and the heart of the Shifter Emperor did not even have consciousness, let alone a Tao. Then how did he achieve Tao? He couldn't have achieved Tao just by reciting the Love Lotus once, right? Then what if he recited the epigraph of my shack again? Achieve Tao again? Wasn't that just nonsense? Therefore, Li Yu urgently wanted to search through all the books and records in the sect collections. He wanted to uncover the truth of this world. According to the system's curvature calculations, this world is extremely vast, tens of millions of times larger than this continent. So, there's definitely something wrong here. Li Yu clenched his fists slightly, and a strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. So, I'm going to prepare a fortuitous opportunity for the disciples of the various sects. Li Yu glanced at the Azure Lotus clone. The Azure Lotus clone stood up with a smile and pulled little Tingting up. Little Tingting, Brother Azure Lotus will teach you how to cultivate. Okay, goodbye, brother. Little Tingting obediently followed the Azure Lotus clone out. I'm going to create this fortuitous opportunity now. The Azure Lotus clone brought little Tingting out, and no one disturbed them. Li Yu focused on creating the so-called fortuitous opportunity. The purpose of giving out this fortuitous opportunity is to collect the books and records of the various sections. It's different from the alternate world system that cultivates the host and collects resources. Liu reached out and lightly tapped the stone table in front of him as he began to think. I don't really intend to let the host soar and counterattack. If it's not to cultivate the host, then after collecting the books and records, the system will automatically uninstall them and recycle them together with the collected books. After clarifying the basic principles, Liu began to create the system. The origin world was the place where Liu would settle down in the future, so he couldn't mess around. The creation system also had to be cautious. If he was careless and ended up creating a powerful opponent for himself, that would be a joke. The workbench opened and multicolored light blossomed. If the purpose is to collect books and records, then the system must have an extremely strong ability to collect and store information. Moreover, the host must understand that this is the system's main function, so that the host can think of ways to collect books and records. So, the system named it Heavenly Projectile. Its appearance is a mysterious pearl. Its main function is to collect, store, organize, and analyze all kinds of information. As Liu's voice fell, multicolored light blossomed from the workbench, and an egg-sized mysterious pearl emerged from the multicolored light. The entire pearl was simple and unadorned, but there were mysterious runes engraved on it that resembled dragons, snakes, flowers, and vines. It looked simple, but it was actually mysterious. The appearance is not bad. Liu nodded his head and then began to set the rules. The system doesn't need intelligence, and also doesn't need to interact with the host. It's completely disguised as a tool with the ability to collect, store, organize, and analyze all kinds of information. According to this world's method of refining treasures, set up a fake refining function. Let the host think that he has refined the heavenly projectile. Once the fake refining process is complete, open the collection, storage, organization, and analysis function. Set me as the person with the highest authority. Only open the collection, storage, organization, and analysis function to the host. Do not respond to any other requests. Set up the uninstall and recycle function. After receiving my command, immediately uninstall the heavenly projectile and bring all the collected information back to the resource warehouse. Following Liu's explanation of the rules, the system quickly completed the creation of the heavenly projectile. Very good. Liu looked at the completed heavenly projectile on the workbench and secretly laughed. Youngsters, I will give you another opportunity. Chapter 175. After the creation of the heavenly projectile orb was completed, Liu began to prepare for the Great Opportunity Sale. Ancestral Master Green Lotus Dao Ascension Ceremony was 3 days later. But generally speaking, guests would arrive early. People would arrive tomorrow and the day after. Therefore, Liu's Great Opportunity Sale had to be started immediately. I definitely can't appear with my own appearance. Thinking about how the heavenly projectile orb would definitely scam its host in the end. In order to avoid being treated as a black-hearted merchant, he had to change his appearance. Among the apothecary skills, there's also the body refinement technique. Liu suddenly remembered that Zhou had sent over a lot of corpses this time. These corpses could be refined again with the apothecary skill, and then use the power of the soul to create a virtual soul. He only needed to split a trace of divine thought to control it remotely. When a mission was completed, he could directly retrieve the bodies and virtual souls. These people would disappear and never be found again. Very good, let's do that. Liu chuckled and stepped into the shop space. Arriving at the warehouse, he collected all the corpses that Zhou had handed over to the system resource vault. Then, Liu began to refine the bodies. System refined the corpses that Zhou had handed over using the apothecary's body refinement technique. Age, gender, appearance, and body shape, all are randomly selected. Refine 26 bodies for me to use. Following Liu's order, All the corpses in the resource vault instantly disintegrated and turned into 26 different bodies of men, women, old, and young. The corpses that he had handed over were all people with extraordinary cultivation. The system extracted energy from the decomposition and refined 26 bodies again. There was still a lot of energy left. These people are only used to sell the heavenly projectile orb. It doesn't matter if they have cultivation or not. Why need cultivation? I can just add them on the spot. After the body refinement was completed, Liu smiled and began to carry out his great opportunity sale. A day later, as Ancestral Master Green Lotus Tao Ascension ceremony was imminent, the entire Kangwu Mountain became lively. More and more people from the various sects arrived one after another. Some of the smaller sects and itinerant cultivators also came to Kangwu Mountain to join the fun. These small sects and itinerant cultivators were not qualified to participate in the Tao attainment ceremony. At most, they could only watch from afar. In truth, these people were not here for the Tao attainment ceremony. For itinerant cultivators and idlers, such a grand gathering of cultivators was a good opportunity to do business. As a result, a bustling market was formed at the foot of Kangwu Mountain. Senior Brother Chun, what's there to see in a market where rogue cultivators gather? A bright and beautiful young girl walked into the market. When she saw the hubbub of voices in front of her, she seemed a little unhappy. She frowned slightly and said to a tall and straight young man beside her. The two of them were dressed in white Taoist robes with a faint image of a flowing cloud on their lapels. This was the symbol of the cloud Heaven Grotto Heaven, one of the 9 Tao Grotto Heavens. The young man's name is Chun Hailing. She gave me a woman's name and forced me to write it as a man. I'm drunk too. The young lady's name was Shi Shi, and she was one of the Yunshao sect disciples who came to participate in the Tao attainment ceremony. Junior sister Shi, don't belittle these itinerant cultivators' markets. Senior brother Chun turned his head and smiled at the young girl beside him. He explained to her, firstly, the market can increase one's knowledge. Secondly, do you know? Sometimes you can also find good things in itinerant cultivators' markets. The East City token in Elder Dongqing's hands was found in the itinerant cultivators' market many years ago. Really? Junior sister Shi's eyes lit up. She pulled senior brother Chun and hurriedly ran into the market. Quick, let's go look for it too. Maybe we can find some treasures too. Haha. All right. Senior brother Chun shook his head helplessly and followed the young girl into the market. At a stall in the market, a skinny man in his 30s sat in front of the stall. On the stall in front of him, there were some cheap herbs, broken weapons, and some ores. It seemed that there was not much business. This skinny man used his arm to support his head and close his eyes to doze off. There was even a faint snoring sound. However, from time to time, his eyes, which were slightly exposed, would scan the market as if he was looking for a target. Someone from Yunshao sect? This is a very suitable target. An inexplicable glint flashed across the slightly exposed eyes. The skinny man chuckled and moved his fingers slightly. On the stall in front of him, among the broken ores, an inconspicuous black iron or trembled slightly, and an undetectable light flashed past. The bait has been put in. We're just waiting for the fish to take the bait. The skinny man's snoring seemed to be even louder. This person was naturally Liu, who came out to swindle others with his refined body. Senior brother Chun, that cauldron over there looks very impressive. Could it be some treasure? The bright young girl pulled senior brother Chun and hurriedly walked past the stall. She pointed at a quaint cauldron placed in a shed in front of them and shouted at senior brother Chun excitedly. How can there be so many treasures? Senior brother Chun smiled and shook his head. Junior sister Shi, there is a possibility of encountering treasures in the market, but that possibility is very small. It requires fate. At this point, senior brother Chun stopped in his tracks, and a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. Senior brother Chen's eyes looked at the stall in front of the skinny man, and his pupils constricted. Then, he turned his head away as if nothing happened and pretended not to care. However, his heart was already burning with eagerness. What attracted Senior Brother Chin's attention was an ordinary black iron ore. But it was not ordinary. How could an ordinary black iron ore have that kind of pattern that contained Tao runes? How could an ordinary black iron ore have that kind of pattern that was inscribed with the Tao of heaven and earth? Senior Brother Chun pretended to be casual and glanced at the skinny man. Then he pouted in disdain and mocked in his heart. So, it's just an itinerant cultivator who has not even completed the consolidation of his foundation. No wonder I can't see the wonder of the Tao runes. The heavens are really helping me. Senior Brother Chen laughed maniacally in his heart. It's naturally impossible for a black iron or to have a pattern of Tao runes. The only possibility is that there is something else in the ore. There must be some kind of treasure hidden in the black iron, or... Senior Brother Chen rolled his eyes a few times and then smiled at Junior Sister, she who was beside him. Junior Sister, there's a stall selling pearl hair clips over there. Go take a look. Senior Brother needs to relieve himself. This kind of exceptional opportunity naturally had to be kept as secret as possible. How could he let others know about it? It would be more convenient for him to take action after sending Junior Sister she away. Oh, then I will wait for you over there. Junior Sister, she smiled and walked towards the pearl hair ornament stall in front of her. After Junior Marshall Sister she left, Senior Marshall Brother Chun walked past the skinny man's stall. As if he was really looking for a place to relieve himself, he asked the skinny man, "Brother, may I know where I can relieve myself here?" As he spoke, Senior Brother Chun threw out a gold cake. Clang! It landed on the stall and coincidentally knocked the pile of ores away. Senior Brother Chen casually flicked his sleeves, and an invisible wave swept across. That piece of black iron, or that he had his eyes on, instantly disappeared without a trace. What the heck? He actually took the opportunity to steal it? When Liu saw this situation, the corner of his mouth twitched a few times. He sneered in his heart. Kid, don't blame me for cheating you in the future. Chapter 176. Haha, the treasure is in my hands. Senior Brother Chen laughed wildly in his heart. He pretended to walk one round and met up with the young girl. After wandering around the market for a while, they left in a hurry. A big fish has taken the bait. Liu chuckled and got up to pack up his stall. He turned to an unoccupied corner tower and disappeared without a trace. After a while, a burly man with a huge sword on his back walked into the market with heavy footsteps. Liu changed his appearance and planned to continue scamming people. The burly man walked into the market with his head held high and swaggered his way through. Then, as expected, he bumped into someone. Bam! The tall and sturdy man seemed to have tripped over something. He staggered and directly bumped into a fat monk with a big head and big ears. Benefactor. The fat monk reached out to help the burly man and was about to speak. Benefactor, your ass. The burly man seemed to have a fiery temper. He did not reply and swung his huge sword towards the fat monk's face. Even a clay bodhisattva had a temper. Facing this unreasonable sword, the fat monk could only wave his hand and slap it. The burly man looked powerful, but in reality, he could not withstand a single blow. The fat monk's slap sent the burly man flying with a scream. The huge sword in his hand fell in front of the fat monk with a clang. Just you wait. The burly man got up from the ground, yelled loudly, and limped out. Buddha is merciful. The fat monk smiled bitterly and shook his head. As a legacy disciple of the strict flower sect, the fat monk felt helpless in the face of such an unexpected disaster. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly glanced at the huge sword on the ground. His eyes flashed, and he quickly bent down to pick up the huge sword. Benefactor, you have not taken your sword. This poor monk will return it to you. As he shouted, the fat monk picked up the huge sword and left the market in a hurry. As for whether he really wanted to return the huge sword to him, such words were just for show. Thus, another fish had taken a bait. Not long after, a blood-curdling scream came from a brothel in the market. A figure was sent flying out of the brothel with a bang and heavily smashed onto the ground. The market was located in a small city located at the foot of Kangwoo Mountain, so brothels and restaurants existed as well. How dare you? How dare you pretend to be a disciple of my water cloud sect and go around swindling people? He actually dared to drink wine without paying and ruin the reputation of our water cloud sect. He truly deserves to die. A silhouette rushed out of the brothel and flew through the air. A stream of sword light whizzed down like a stream of water. Aya! The figure that had just fallen to the ground let out a strange cry, and a shabby inkstone appeared in his hand. He casually tossed it out. The inkstone grew in the wind and turned into a huge inkstone, blocking the sword light. At the same time, a cloud of smoke rushed up, and this person instantly disappeared without a trace. Clang! The sword light slashed on the giant inkstone, causing sparks to fly. The inkstone fell to the ground with a plop sound. Bastard! I won't let you off the next time I see you. The sword light faded, and a young man in white landed on the ground, his face full of resentment. The young man in white was about to leave when he suddenly saw the inkstone left on the ground, and his body trembled. Since it belongs to that scoundrel, there must be some clues about that scoundrel. I have to check it carefully. As he said that, the young man in white waved his hand and put away the inkstone, then hurriedly left. He didn't even care about the girls in the brothel who were calling him affectionately. This fish also swallowed the bait. Do me a favor. I haven't eaten for 3 days. An old beggar with a haggard face walked into the market shakily with a walking stick. The old beggar was holding a chipped alms bowl in his hand and handed it over when he saw the person. He begged along the street. Move aside. When the old beggar placed the alms bowl in front of 2 young men dressed like scholars. One of the scholars reached out and pushed the old beggar, causing him to stagger and fall to the side of the road. Clang! The alms bowl fell to the ground. A hint of surprise flashed in the other scholar's eyes, and then he instantly returned to normal. Junior Brother Sue, this old man is an old man. How can a scholar like us act like this? The scholar scolded Junior Brother Sue with a straight face, and then walked to the old beggar with a smile on his face, and reached out to help the old beggar up. Old man, it was our fault just now, and we frightened you. The scholar apologized to the old beggar with a smile, took out a piece of broken silver, and handed it to the old beggar. Our sect emphasizes on everyone doing their best, and we don't like people who reap without sowing. That's why my junior brother's attitude towards you is bad. You are an old man who has lost the ability to work and naturally can't be treated like this. The scholar affectionately patted the dust on the old beggar's body and continued, Old man, according to the rules of our sect, it's better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish. I'll give you the money for free. Consider it as me buying your alms bowl. With that, the scholar bent down to pick up the alms bowl from the ground and put it away without asking the old beggar if he agreed. Soon after, the scholar found an excuse to separate from Junior Brother Sue and hurriedly left the market alone. This fish had also taken a bait. Selling the family heirloom. Selling the family heirloom. A little boy of 12 or 13 years old was holding a modeled bronze statue in his hand and hawking all the way in the market. This is the family heirloom, and it's only worth 1 tael of silver. Don't miss it if you're passing by. The little boy held the bronze statue and walked all the way. The modeled bronze statue's appearance was very poor, and there was no sense of beauty, and there was no fluctuation of spiritual chi, so naturally, no one was interested. Master, master, buy this bronze statue. This is the family heirloom. It's only worth 1 tael of silver. The little boy couldn't sell his item, and in the end, he stopped a young monk in a moon-white monk robe. Almsgiver, I'm a Buddhist, and your bronze statue is obviously a Taoist dharma. The young monk glanced at the bronze statue, and just as he was about to refuse, his body suddenly trembled, and he quickly changed his words. Although Buddhism and Taoism are different, since you're so eager to sell the family heirloom, you must be in urgent need of money, so I'll help you this time. With that, the young monk took out a piece of silver and handed it to the little boy. Then, He took the bronze statue from the little boy's hand and hurriedly put it away. Then, the young monk seemed to have something urgent to attend to, and hurriedly left the market. One day, 2 days, there was an endless stream of fish that had taken a bait. In these 2 days, the disciples of the Confucian sacred grounds, Taoist grotto heavens, and Buddhist temples who came to Kangwu Mountain to participate in ancestral master Green Lotus Tao Ascension ceremony had all obtained great opportunities in the market at the foot of Kangwu Mountain. Everyone had their own opportunities, and everyone had different encounters. The prey sold by hunters was an opportunity, and the stones played by children were an opportunity. Even the hero who saved was not beautiful, and he could even obtain a love token from a girl who weighed 300 pounds. At that time, the young scholar from White Deer Academy had a conflicted expression on his face when he received the love token, and Li Yu almost burst out laughing. At this point, Li Yu's great opportunity sale was officially completed. Chapter 177. Clang. A deep and melodious sound of a bell resounded. Multicolored light filled the air. Ancestral Master Green Lotus's ascension ceremony had officially begun in the enormous main hall at the peak of Kangwu Mountain. Every sect in the world had arrived. The 10 sacred grounds of Confucianism, the 9 paradise of Taoism, and the 8 great temples of Buddhism had all sent representatives to congratulate Kangwu Academy. The auspicious hour has arrived. The melodious sound of a bell resounded through the clouds. Ancestral Master Green Lotus, please descend. Everyone from Kangwu Academy in the main hall shouted in unison and bowed deeply. The disciples of the other sects bowed as well. Ancestral Master Green Lotus, please descend. Everyone from Kangwu Academy in Kangwu Mountain shouted in unison. Ancestral Master Green Lotus, please descend. Everyone related to Kangwu Academy at the foot of Kangwu Mountain shouted in unison. Even the bustling market had become solemn. No one dared to make a ruckus as they bowed in unison. After the 3 calls, the entire area around Kangwu Mountain fell silent. Everyone was looking up at the peak of Kangwu Mountain. They held their breaths and waited. Clang, clang, clang. A faintly discernible heavenly sound resounded in the sky. A clear and melodious sound resounded as a dazzling brilliance shot into the clouds. An enormous lotus that connected the heavens and the earth appeared in the sky. Boundless radiance blossomed as multicolored light shone. Untainted by the mud, the sonorous voice of the great Tao resounded in the sky. The mighty heavenly sound spread out. The wind stopped, and the clouds disappeared. Only the green lotus that connected the heavens and the earth stood proudly. The multicolored light gradually faded away as the green lotus gradually faded. Amidst the countless lotuses, a figure dressed in green walked over on a lotus and landed in the main hall at the peak of the mountain. Greetings, Ancestral Master Green Lotus. This time, even the disciples of the other sects bowed to the Ancestral Master Green Lotus. No one in the world dared to disrespect a Supreme Grandmaster. Congratulations, Ancestral Master Green Lotus, for attaining the Supreme Great Tao. In the main hall, everyone shouted in unison and bowed deeply to Ancestor Green Lotus. At the same time, the entire Kangwu Mountain, including everyone at the foot of Kangwu Mountain, followed suit and bowed deeply in the direction of the mountain summit. A Supreme Grandmaster achieving the Tao naturally deserved the world's congratulations. Please rise, everyone. Ancestor Green Lotus smiled and nodded. Then he gently waved his hand, and a gentle force helped everyone in the hall up. Everyone, today, is our Kangwu Academy's Ancestral Master Green Lotus's Tao attainment ceremony. Meanwhile, Mountain Elder Qin Muyu stood out and cupped his hands towards the guests. My Dark Parasol Academy is deeply honored that the various sects have come to offer their congratulations. Ancestor Green Lotus attaining the Tao is not only the glory of our Kangwu Academy, but also the glory of all the human kingdoms in the Central Plains. Ancestor Green Lotus has confirmed his Tao. Our Central Plains human race, now has a fourth Supreme Grandmaster. Since then, the situation of the Central Plains humans has changed greatly. Demons from outside the Great Plains would definitely not dare to take even half a step into the Great Plains. Haha, what a joke. Just as Qin Muyu said that, a sneer suddenly floated down from the sky. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone in the hall changed drastically, especially the members of the Kangwu Academy. They were instantly unable to restrain their rage when they heard this ridicule. Someone dared to ridicule Ancestor Green Lotus to his face during his Tao attainment ceremony? Someone dared to provoke him? Who was it? Who was so audacious? Amidst their shock and rage, everyone looked towards the direction of the voice. This hall had no walls, and it was only supported by numerous enormous pillars that supported the roof. This was because experts were used to flying around, and a hall without walls was more convenient for them to enter and exit. Everyone looked over, and their faces instantly turned pale. Rumble. An enormous rumble resounded in the sky as 9 enormous black WIRMS pulled a gorgeous carriage through the sky. The carriage arrived in the blink of an eye and whistled as it stopped outside the hall. A middle-aged man who wore a crown and an emperor's robe sat upright on the open carriage. The middle-aged man had an extraordinary appearance, and he looked around complacently. Every single move he made emanated a domineering aura of supremacy that shook the world. A demon emperor? Everyone exclaimed when they saw this man. Oomph. The demon emperor glanced at the hall, and a violent and domineering aura suddenly surged out. Ah! Everyone felt their limbs go weak when they were hit by this domineering aura, and their hearts were filled with fear. Ancestor Green Lotus frowned slightly when he saw this, and he flicked the wine bottle in front of him with his finger. Clink! A melodious ring resounded, and everyone's bodies trembled. Only then did they break free from the demon emperor's terrifying aura. Everyone took a deep breath as they recalled how they were intimidated by the demon emperor's aura earlier. They were powerless like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. The terror of a Supreme Grandmaster was truly terrifying. Demon Emperor, have you come from afar to congratulate me? Ancestor Green Lotus picked up the wine bottle on the table and gently shook it a few times. A series of rumbling sounds resounded in the sky, and it was as if a monstrous wave was surging violently. No! The Demon Emperor took a deep look at Ancestor Green Lotus with a complicated expression in his eyes. I have come to see you. Huh? Ancestor Green Lotus chuckled and shook his head. At this moment, a gale rushed up from the north, yellow sand rose from the west, and a flame rose from the south. Including you, for Supreme Grandmasters of the Demon Clan have come together just to see me. Ancestor Green Lotus placed the wine bottle on the table and looked up at the Demon Emperor. Demon Emperor, since you have come personally, you must be here to discuss the Tao with me. Since that's the case, you are a guest from afar. Let me give you a toast. With a wave of his hand, the wine bottle on the table flew up and flew towards the Demon Emperor. The wine bottle flew through the air. It wasn't fast. It didn't have any earth-shattering aura. However, when he saw the wine bottle flying towards him, the Demon Emperor's expression turned serious. If you want to treat me to a drink, how can I not drink? The Demon Emperor smiled and casually reached out to grab the wine bottle that was flying towards him. Boom! When the wine bottle entered his hand, a tsunami-like tide rushed up. The wine in the wine bottle seemed to have turned into a raging tide. A drop of water becomes a river. A cup of wine becomes a sea. Extraordinary indeed. The Demon Emperor's hand that was holding the wine bottle trembled slightly, but his expression didn't change. Phew! He opened his mouth and blew a breath of air into the wine bottle. An extremely cold breath blew into the wine bottle, and the raging tide froze, turning into a cup of frozen wine. Your wine is too hot. It tastes better when it's chilled. The Demon Emperor chuckled and raised his head, drinking the frozen wine in one gulp. Ha! Good wine. The Demon Emperor laughed heartily and nodded at Green Lotus. I've drunk the wine too. I've seen the person, but I haven't achieved my goal yet. The demon emperor turned to look at Kangwu Mountain. This place is not bad. It's a pity to destroy it. Let's go somewhere else then. The demon emperor patted the carriage, and the 9 black flood dragons roared and soared into the sky. Green Lotus, I'll be waiting for you in the void turbulence. Do you dare to fight with me? Chapter 178. The Turbulent Void. Hearing this name, everyone in the hall immediately cried out in alarm. Ancestral Master, you mustn't. Qin Muyu shouted and knelt in front of Ancestral Master Green Lotus. Ancestral Master, this is the Demon Emperor's trick. The turbulent void is chaotic, and the Tao of heaven and earth is unknown. Ancestral Master, although you are a supreme master, you can't unleash the might of the great Tao in the turbulent void. You mustn't take the risk. Yes, yes. The rest of the people also echoed in unison. Ancestral Master, the demon race doesn't follow the righteous path. They cultivate with evil methods and advance with the power of bloodline. The turbulent void doesn't affect them much. However, the strength of the righteous path cultivators of the human race is greatly reduced in the turbulent void. Ancestral Master, don't fall into the trap of the thief. You don't have to worry too much. Ancestral Master Green Lotus smiled and waved his hand. I have to go on this trip. Ancestral Master. Qin Muyu knelt on the ground with a plop. The others in the hall also knelt down and begged Ancestral Master Green Lotus not to go. How can I not know what you're saying? Ancestral Master Green Lotus smiled and shook his head. This time, the 4 supreme masters of the demon race have taken action, and the other supreme masters of the human race have all come out to stop them. If I don't accept the Demon Emperor's challenge, he can destroy the human race. Demon Emperors can destroy cities and countries at any time, and it will be another catastrophe for us humans. Ancestral Master Green Lotus got up and walked down the hall. He reached out to help everyone up and said with a smile, I used Green Lotus to prove the path of a gentleman. The sword of a gentleman would rather break than bend. If I don't accept the challenge, where is my Tao? Where is my heart? Ancestral Master. Hearing these words, everyone in the hall was deeply shocked. They knelt in front of Ancestral Master Green Lotus again and shouted, Ancestral Master Green Lotus, may you eliminate the demon aura and return victorious. Ancestral Master Green Lotus, may you eliminate the demon aura and return victorious. In the hall, everyone felt a sense of tragedy, and the blood in their hearts suddenly boiled. Yes, I will definitely return victorious. Ancestral Master Green Lotus nodded. With a tap of his foot, lotus flowers bloomed, and reincarnation. His figure instantly rushed into the sky and disappeared. Ancestral Master Green Lotus stepped on the lotus and rushed toward the turbulent void. The catastrophe of the human race? My heart and my Tao? Of course, all of that was fake. In essence, he was Li Yu's avatar. How could Ancestral Master Blue Lotus be a gentleman? The reason why he wanted to go to the chaotic void was because he was confident in his own strength. With the store space as his backing and the might of the Green Lotus Emperor weapon, why would he be afraid of a Shifter Emperor? Another reason was that Li Yu was very curious about the turbulence of the void. He was also very curious about how the Demon Clan's cultivation method was not affected by the turbulence of the void. If he could solve this mystery, it would be of great help to Li Yu in understanding the truth of this world. Li Yu's main body was in the mall space, and the Green Lotus Avatar was about to start a battle with the Monster Emperor. Naturally, Li Yu had to focus and deal with it seriously. This was the first time he had truly come into contact with the high-end power of this world. No matter how one looked at it, it was very valuable. System, pay attention to collecting all information regarding the battle between the Green Lotus Avatar and the Demon Emperor. It will serve as the basis for measuring the strength of the origin world in the future. Astral winds howled. The Green Lotus Avatar stepped on the lotus and arrived at the turbulent void in an instant. So, this is the turbulent void? In front of him was a vast expanse of gray chaos. The vast space was in chaos. There was no distinction between heaven and earth, nor was there any distinction between front and back, left and right. Even time and space were in chaos. There's actually such a place? Liu had seen records of the turbulent void in the Kangwu Academy's library. However, the records only said that it was a lawless land and a land of no order. It was a forbidden land for human cultivators. Now that he saw the turbulent void with his own eyes, Liu was deeply shocked. There were all kinds of strange things in the boundless universe. Even such a scene where heaven and earth had not been created and chaos still existed. Of course there's such a place. In the chaotic turbulence, the monster emperor stood with his hands behind his back. He raised his head and looked at the endless chaos. There was an inexplicable nostalgia on his face. Do you know why I placed the battlefield here? The monster emperor turned to look at the green lotus and smiled. Because this place is very special. Oh, isn't it because this place is beneficial to you? The green lotus looked up at the monster emperor and slowly raised her hand. Since you're here, let's cut the crap. Let's fight first. She pressed down with her hand, and a green aura whizzed up. Green lotuses bloomed in the void. Endless brilliance swept towards the monster emperor like a mighty flood. You're right. Of course, we'll talk after we fight. The monster emperor laughed and slapped out with his palm. He slapped out against the waves like hitting water in a stream. There was a loud rumble. Violent tremors surged, and the chaos in the surroundings boiled violently. The chaotic and disorderly situation became even more chaotic. Heaven and earth were in chaos. Everything was in a mess. The great Tao of heaven and earth and the world's laws were completely useless in this chaos. The real battle has only just begun. The monster emperor laughed loudly. Purple monster chi surged, and a mighty momentum stirred the chaos in the surroundings. A huge palm print that blotted out the sky rushed out and slapped down on the green lotus. Boom! The incomparably violent and domineering power was fully displayed in this palm print. Azure sea, blue sky, lotus. A brilliant brilliance shone, and a lotus that reached the heavens bloomed in the chaos. The monstrous momentum shook the heavens and earth. The green lotus emperor weapon displayed its unparalleled divine power in this world. Bang! The huge palm print exploded, and the brilliant lotus opened up a patch of azure sea and blue sky in the chaos. So, your power? The monster emperor seemed to be shocked. His eyes were wide open as he stared at the green lotus. His face was filled with surprise and surprise. His expression was very strange. Take a move from me too. Liu was not a modest person. No matter if the monster emperor was in a daze or not, when it was time for him to fight, he would never hesitate. 9 slashes of the monster emperor. Lotus petals flew out from the huge lotus. 9 lotus petals spiraled in the air. They were like knives, swords, spears, halberds, hooks, spears, shields, axes, and daggers. The lotus petals turned into 9 different weapons and slashed at the monster emperor like a storm. The 9 slashes of the monster emperor was endless. The mighty heavenly power tore through the clouds. Bastard, I'm your brother. Why are you so ruthless? The moment the 9 slashes of the monster emperor came out, the monster emperor broke out in cold sweat. The monstrous monster chi shook violently. A purple light whizzed up and turned into a huge bronze bell, protecting the monster emperor tightly. Clang, clang, clang. The unceasing slashes landed heavily on the bronze bell. Bell chimes rang out one after another, accompanied by huge vibrations that soared into the sky. Puff! After this round of attacks, the monster emperor's face turned pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body swayed, and he pulled far away. Good, good, good. You're indeed my brother. The monster emperor wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and laughed loudly. My brother, so you've already known the truth. The mighty power belongs to you, and the heavenly Tao is nothing. I'm not fighting anymore. I'm not fighting anymore. The monster emperor turned and ran out of the turbulent void. A sentence came from afar. My name is Ma Bai. Brother, let's break this cage together. Truth? Cage? The mighty power belongs to you? Liu furrowed his brows tightly, but a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It seems that the Demon Emperor knows something. Chapter 179. The heavenly Tao is nothing when the mighty power belongs to oneself. Seeing Demon Emperor Mabai whizzing away, the Green Lotus clone smiled. As expected, there's something wrong with this world's Tao validation. The Green Lotus Tao validation did not require any process of enlightenment, attainment, validation, or Tao validation. It was achieved directly. In addition to what the Demon Emperor had said earlier, Liu already had a guess in his heart. The Green Lotus clone's power comes from the heart of the Demon Emperor and the Green Lotus Emperor weapon. It has nothing to do with this world's heavenly Tao. However, the Love Lotus discourse directly validated the Tao. In other words, the heavenly Tao is nothing. The Green Lotus clone laughed heartily and glanced at the turbulent void before turning to leave. The system had already recorded all the information of their battle and scanned the turbulent void. There was no need for the Green Lotus clone to continue staying here. Stepping out, the Green Lotus clone turned into a beam of light and returned to the peak of Kangwu Mountain. Long live ancestral master Green Lotus. As soon as he landed, the entire Kangwu Mountain erupted in earth-shattering cheers. Welcome back, ancestral master Green Lotus. In the main hall, everyone bowed to the Green Lotus clone excitedly. The entire Kangwu Mountain turned into a sea of joy. The cheers, congratulations, and praises were like a tsunami. A day later, the news of ancestral master Green Lotus defeating the Demon Emperor in the turbulent void spread across the world. The entire human race was overjoyed, and their morale was greatly boosted. Praises could be heard everywhere in the Central Plains. As the person involved, Liu naturally knew that this was a complete joke. The battle in the turbulent void did not count at all. Demon Emperor Mabai was only testing the waters from the beginning and did not use his full strength at all. Liu had already figured out the Demon Emperor's motive. After causing such a huge commotion and mobilizing all the supreme masters of the demon race, Demon Emperor Mabai was really just here to take a look at the Green Lotus clone. The Green Lotus clone was formed from the heart of the Demon Emperor. Even if the Green Lotus clone had validated the Tao and impersonated the founder of the Confucian school of Kangwu Mountain, it could not change the fact that he was originally a demon. Therefore, when the Demon Emperor said, "My brother," he was not wrong in the first place. The Demon Emperor was so angry that he smashed his wine cup when he heard Qing Lian's words, emerging from the mud unsullied. Unwilling to let his own brother join the human race, the Demon Emperor naturally had to find a way to see if there was any way to salvage the situation. That was why he made such a fuss. The power that the Green Lotus avatar uses comes from the heart of the demon god and the Green Lotus Emperor weapon. It had nothing to do with the heavenly Tao of this world. That's why the Demon Emperor said, "Great power belongs to oneself." Seeing that the power of the Green Lotus avatar originated from him, the Demon Emperor immediately changed his attitude and directly called him brother. Therefore, the Demon Emperor approved of this method of cultivation. In this world, cultivators can use the power of heaven and earth. However, this mighty force comes from heaven and earth and not from oneself. Based on the Demon Emperor's words, the right path is to use one's own power. Borrowing the power of the heavenly Tao is bullsh *t. Is this what the so-called truth means? It's just that. What is the so-called cage? Don't tell me it's referring to this world. Liu rubbed his forehead and shook his head helplessly. The Demon Emperor's words can be used as a reference, but can't be trusted completely. There's still too little information, and I can't find the truth. Looks like I can only place my hopes on the heavenly divination orb for now. The Demon Emperor definitely knows some things. If the heavenly divination orb plan is completed, then so be it. If the information collected by the heavenly divination orb plan is not enough to uncover the truth, I have to make a trip to the Demon Emperor. Dealing with the Demon Emperor isn't that easy. Although he calls me brother, this kind of person seems forthright and magnanimous, but he's actually very scheming. I've always been the mastermind behind the scenes. If I fall into his hands, that would be a joke. Liu chuckled and placed his thoughts on the heavenly divination orb plan. He's already started refining the heavenly divination orb? I'll have to wait and see. The system connected to the heavenly divination orb and displayed the surrounding situation. Liu gave out a total of 26 heavenly divination orbs. Apart from Kangwu Academy, the 10 holy lands of Confucianism, the 9 grotto heavens of Taoism, and the 8 great temples of Buddhism were all present. Every sect found a host and gave them a fortuitous encounter. At that moment, almost every host was refining the heavenly divination orb, but their progress was slightly different. The fake refining process that Li Yu set was very compatible with the standards of a treasure. It was not easy to refine it. It required a lot of effort and primordial qi to refine it continuously. This way, the harder it was to obtain it, and the more effort one had to put in to get a reward. The more excited these youths were, and the more they looked forward to the heavenly divination orb. At that moment, the Yunxiao sect disciple, Chan Hailing, who obtained the heavenly divination orb first restriction, was about to refine the first restriction of the orb in the guest house of Kangwu Mountain. Ever since she obtained the fortuitous encounter, Chan Hailing locked herself in and focused on studying a simple and mysterious orb that was extracted from the black iron ore. As one of the 9 grotto heavens of Taoism, Chan Hailing, who was born in a famous sect, naturally did not lack knowledge. Looking at this pearl, even though the pearl was dull and unremarkable, the profound and unfathomable divine inscriptions on the surface of the pearl already showed that this pearl was definitely extraordinary. Divine items concealed themselves. Without refining, it was naturally unable to reveal the true appearance of a treasure. Thus, Chan Hailing devoted all her attention to refining the orb in the following period of time. Every sect had their own method of refining treasures. Although the methods were different, the essence was to use primordial qi to refine the treasure. Ultimately, the treasure would become sentient, and its consciousness would be connected. Chan Hailing mobilized her primordial qi and refined the orb for 3 consecutive days. It was only until then that there was a slight reaction from the orb. After spending 3 days and refining my primordial qi continuously, I even swallowed more than 10 bottles of elixirs before there was a slight reaction. Chan Hailing's expression was a little tired, but she was extremely excited. It is indeed a treasure. The more powerful a treasure is, the harder it is to refine it. Since there is already a reaction, I'll do it in one go. She took out a jade bottle and poured an elixir into her mouth. Chan Hailing gathered her spirit energy again and continued to refine the orb. As the spirit energy seeped in, a mysterious rune on the orb lit up faintly. All right, I'm about to refine it. Chan Hailing was elated at the sight of this. She bit the tip of her tongue and spat a mouthful of primordial qi and blood essence onto the orb. A slight buzz sounded, and the orb shook violently. A brilliant spirit light was released, and a faint celestial sound reverberated in her ears. The heavenly sound of the great Tao was mysterious and unpredictable. With a swoosh, the orb rushed into Chan Hailing's glabella and merged into her mind. Clang! In the sea of consciousness, a mighty heavenly sound resounded, and a dazzling pearl rose up like a bright moon, illuminating the entire sea of consciousness. At this time, Chan Hailing realized that all the knowledge, experiences, cultivation techniques, scriptures, talismans, and Tao techniques that she had learned were analyzed one by one in this array. She completely understood everything in an instant. Heavenly projectile orb, deducing the great Tao of heaven and earth, and calculating the past and future. Chan Hailing's heart skipped a beat as ecstasy filled her face. I've only refined the first restriction. It actually has such a miraculous effect. The heavenly projectile orb is indeed a treasure. What a great opportunity. What a great treasure. Liu nodded and smiled when he saw this scene. Yin Xiao Sec's manuals will be in our hands very soon. Chapter 180. 3 days later, the Tao Ascension ceremony was over. The guests from the various sects left one after another, and the bustling Kangwu Mountain returned to its usual peaceful state. However, many people's fates had quietly undergone a huge change. Ever since Chun Hailing had refined the first restriction of the heavenly projecting orb, the same thing had happened more than 20 times in the following days. Li did not pay attention to it one by one, allowing the system to deal with it on its own. System notification. Activation of the heavenly projecting orb system completed. All heavenly projecting orb systems are operating normally. A few days later, when Liu heard the system notification, he realized that all the heavenly projecting orbs had come online. The fact that the host had refined a few restrictions was a complete lie. After all, the heavenly projecting orb required energy to operate, so the host had to pour in his true yuan and spiritual qi. Now that the heavenly projecting orb had been activated, the host had fulfilled the requirements to complete the mission. The task of collecting information had already begun after the host had refined the orb. But the information that these sect disciples have access to is too little, so it's useless. Liu shook his head and sighed when he saw the new information in the system's repository. I still need a lot of time to complete the task of collecting information. Sitting on the deck chair, Liu lifted his teacup and took a sip. He lifted his head to look at little Ting, who was jumping around in the courtyard, and a smile appeared on his face. Since I still need some time to collect information, then I can take this opportunity to go to the next world. Liu asked the system in his mind. System, when I go to the other world to sell the system and build the shopping center, can I bring someone with me? For example, little Ting? Bringing others to the target world will require additional energy. Then it's okay. Liu smiled. Now that he had enough energy, and little Ting did not have much cultivation, she did not need to consume much energy, so it did not matter. System, begin selecting the next target world. Liu instructed the system, then waited for the world to be selected. What appeared in front of Liu was that familiar roulette. It's time to bet on luck again. Liu shook his head with a smile and waved his hand gently. Let's begin. Swish! The roulette whistled and spun until Liu shouted, "Stop!" The roulette instantly stopped, and the needle pointed to a world that surprised Liu. It's actually this world? Liu looked at the target world that the needle was pointing at, and the smile on his face became a little strange. This should be retribution, right? I've been pretending to be a Tao ancestor and calling myself I Grand Supreme. This world already has a Grand Supreme Tao sect. Liu touched his forehead, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. When he thought of the cultivation in that world, he became excited again. According to the rules of this world, there are two paths of cultivation. The first path is to strengthen the body and eventually become a human immortal, shatter the vacuum, make the body immortal, and be reborn from a drop of blood. The other path is to make the soul indestructible. The soul has to go through 9 lightning tribulations, turning back to Yang, and become a Yang god. Liu reached out and knocked on the table beside him, but he was thinking about what he should do in the target world. Great power belongs to oneself. The Demon Emperor's words are very correct. One's own power is the foundation, and everything else is illusory. Therefore, cultivation is still my top priority. Liu's current cultivation had already reached the great circle of the dragon realm. The cultivation of the body had reached the end, and the next step was to cultivate the soul and step into the immortal foundation stage. The 129,600 acupoints of the target world, the past, present, and future of Buddhism, the 3 scriptures, the path of immortality of the physical body, and the path of transcendence of the primordial spirit. They all seem to be worth learning from. Thinking of this, Liu nodded. Collecting the cultivation manuals of the target world had already become one of the goals of this trip. Other than cultivation, the system missions must be completed. One is the manufacturing system. The other is to build a shopping center. With the resources of the target world, There are many materials to build a shopping center. There's no need to worry about this at all. Other than that, it was naturally to collect resources. The target world is very rich in natural treasures, and there are all kinds of divine weapons and divine beasts. Naturally, I have to plunder them properly. The shopping center still needs a lot of treasures to fill up. After clarifying the 3 goals of this trip, Liu was already prepared to set off. Little Ting Ting. Liu reached out and called out to Little Ting Ting. Coming. Little Ting Ting ran over happily. Big brother, what's the matter? Little Ting Ting. Big brother will bring you out to play, okay? Liu squatted down in front of Little Ting Ting, reached out and patted her head, and asked with a smile. Okay. Hearing that Liu wanted to bring her out to play, Little Ting Ting was so happy that she jumped. A 4 or 5-year-old child was at the age when she liked to play. The Kangwoo Academy was full of adults, and she had no companions at all. Little Ting Ting was actually very lonely. Then let's go. Liu reached out and pulled Little Ting Ting and instructed the system in his heart. System, send Little Ting Ting and me to the target world together. A faint light flashed, and Liu and Little Ting Ting's figures instantly disappeared. The northern wind whistled, and snowflakes danced in the sky. In front of him was a vast expanse of white ice and snow. It's actually winter, and it's snowing so heavily? Liu frowned slightly. With his cultivation at the Dragon Realm perfection stage, his blood was like a dragon, and naturally, he was immune to the cold and heat. However, Little Ting Ting only had the constitution of an ordinary person. So why? Little Ting Ting, aren't you cold? Liu turned his head and saw Little Ting Ting, who was overjoyed and did not feel cold at all, and he was a little surprised. Cold? Little Ting Ting, aren't you cold? Instead, I feel very comfortable. Little Ting Ting was only wearing a thin, light green dress, and she chased the falling snowflakes with her hands, having a lot of fun. Is it because of the extreme Een constitution? The extreme Een constitution means extreme Een coldness. Originally, Little Ting Ting was not afraid of the cold at all. Liu thought about it and immediately understood the reason. However, both of them were wearing thin clothes in the middle of winter, and it was really too eye-catching. Fortunately, this problem was not a problem for Liu at all. After spending some energy points, Liu redeemed 2 sets of leather winter clothes from the system according to their figures. Little Ting Ting was wearing a snow-white fox fur coat and a pair of white leather boots, looking extremely adorable. Liu, on the other hand, had changed into a purple mink coat. He looked exactly like a noble young master. That big city in front, could it be the Jade Capital? Is this the capital of the great Qian dynasty? Liu raised his head and looked into the distance, only to see a huge city standing on the ground. There were palaces and tall buildings, and it was a scene of wealth and prosperity. White Jade Capital in the sky, 12 buildings and 5 cities. Immortals caress my head, and I'll be immortal, Liu sang as he held Little Ting Ting's hand and walked in the snow towards the city in front. Chapter 181. The scenery of the Northern Kingdom, thousands of miles. Liu held Little Ting Ting's hand and strolled in the snow. When he looked up and saw the boundless world and the thousands of miles of frozen scenery, he couldn't help but want to recite. Before he could recite more than 2 sentences, the shadow of a cyan beast rushed out of the snow in front of them. A cyan little fox jumped out of the snow and stared fiercely at Liu and Little Ting Ting with its green eyes. Squeak! A sharp cry rang out. The cyan fox seemed to have gone mad. It threw snowballs from the snow towards Liu and Xiao Ting Ting. Damn, what's going on? Liu waved his sleeve and a gust of wind rushed out, sweeping away all the snowballs that were coming at him. Hee, brother, doesn't want to have a snowball fight with us? Little Ting Ting jumped up excitedly and bent down to grab a ball of snow. She rolled it into a snowball and threw it at the cyan fox in front of them. Unfortunately, Little Ting Ting was only 5 years old and had small arms and legs. How far could she throw the snowball? After throwing it about 20 feet, the snowball fell into the snow. Squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak. At this time, a series of urgent fox cries came from the forest on the right. There seemed to be extreme fear in the fox's voice, causing the cries to tremble. Squeak! The cyan fox that was throwing snowballs at Liu and Little Ting Ting stretched out its small claws and pointed at Liu and Little Ting Ting. It screamed angrily and bared its teeth at the two of them, seeming to be unable to restrain its anger. What's going on? It's as if we've done something unforgivable. Liu was somewhat baffled. They had just stepped into this world and hadn't provoked anyone. Why did they provoke a little fox? This was really squeak, 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 squeak. The fox cries in the forest became more urgent and seemed to be more frightened. Squeak! The cyan little fox turned its head and let out a long cry toward the forest. Its green eyes glared fiercely at Liu and Little Ting Ting. Then it swung its tail and ran into the forest. Hey, don't run. Let's continue playing. Seeing that the little green fox had run away, Xiao Ting Ting panicked and hurriedly chased after it. Creak! Seeing that Ting Ting is catching up with it, the cyan little fox stops and screams. It suddenly jumps up from the snow and reaches out its sharp claws to scratch Ting Ting's face. Bastard! Preposterous! Liu didn't care at first, but he didn't expect the cyan little fox to hurt him. If this claw came down, Xiao Ting Ting's face would definitely be dripping with blood. How could that be? Bastard! How dare you hurt him? Liu roars and reaches out to grab the cyan little fox. A huge force pulls it into his hand. Liu's cultivation level was at the complete dragon realm, causing his blood and qi to surge like a dragon. With this roar, his qi and blood surged like the blazing sun. The cyan little fox is hit by the qi and blood. It screams and faints. Brother, don't hurt it. Xiao Ting Ting finally comes to her senses. Seeing the cyan little fox in Liu's hand, Xiao Ting Ting couldn't bear to see it hurt. She hurriedly begs Liu for mercy. Your Excellency, please show mercy. At this moment, an old voice suddenly rings out in the forest. A figure walks out of the forest. This is turning his head to see the figure walking out of the forest. Liu blinks his eyes with a strange expression on his face. It's a fox, a white old fox that is wearing clothes, walking upright like a human, and can even speak human language. Brother, how can he walk? How can he wear clothes? And he can talk? Little Ting Ting asked Liu in surprise as she looked at the fox that was walking over with a dumbfounded expression. Why do you say that? Hearing Xiao Ting Ting's words, the old fox seems to be a little unhappy. The few long whiskers around his mouth stick up. He shakes his head and says, Although I am a fox, I am also knowledgeable. I can walk, wear clothes, and talk. What's so strange about that? In ancient times, all living beings ate raw meat and drank blood. What's the difference between humans and foxes? Ancient humans were no different from apes and monkeys. Later on, they gradually walked upright, ate cooked food, created words, and finally became humans. Although we foxes are one step behind, who knows if we can catch up and be on par with humans in the future. As the old fox speaks, he walks step by step. His sleeves flutters in the wind, and his expression is relaxed. It makes Liu feel that he is facing a knowledgeable person. What the hell? Even a fox knows the theory of evolution. Hearing the old fox's words, Liu's heart is filled with shock. This world is really wonderful. Greetings to the two of you. The old fox walks in front of Liu and Xiao Ting Ting. He clasps his two front paws and salutes Liu. I was ignorant and offended the two of you. I am really sorry. The old fox looks at the cyan little fox in Liu's hand and shakes his head with a sigh. I was young and ignorant. When I saw the fox fur coat on this little girl, I thought that the two of you killed our clansmen. I felt indignant and offended the two of you. Huh? So that's the case. Liu looks at the fox fur coat on Xiao Ting Ting and shakes his head with a bitter smile. He reaches out his hand and passes the cyan little fox to the old fox. Thank you. The old fox takes the cyan little fox and bows to Liu to thank him. I was rude and offended the two of you. I'm really sorry. I also saw the fur coat on this little girl's body. It has a messy aura and has no spiritual energy. It is even worse than ordinary beasts. Naturally, she is not from our fox clan. Indeed, this is the fur of a kind of domestic animal in a foreign land. It has nothing to do with the fox clan. The origin of this fur coat is an item from the world of the Book of Changes. Although it is said to be real leather, who knows how much of it is real? Liu smiles unconcernedly. I see. The old fox reaches out his hand and touches the back of the cyan little fox's head. Liu can clearly feel a surge of vital energy coming out of the old fox's paw and seeping into the cyan little fox's body. The cyan little fox slowly wakes up. When it opens its eyes and sees Liu, it screams in fright. Its whole body trembles, and it huddles tightly in the old fox's arms. Little Cyan, don't be afraid. The old fox gently pats the cyan little fox. They're not bad people. That little girl is not wearing a fox fur coat either. You have wronged her. Squeak. The cyan little fox raises its head in surprise and looks carefully at Xiao Ting Ting's mountain. It seems to have noticed the difference as well. It covers its face with its paws and lowers its head dejectedly. Hee hee, this is so fun. Xiao Ting Ting claps her hands and laughs when she sees the little fox being so lively. The two of you, this place is more than 60 miles away from the Jade capital. Even if the little brother's blood energy is strong and he is not afraid of the wind and snow, this little girl might not be able to withstand it. Why don't you rest in the valley of the West Mountain for a while and continue your journey after the snow stops? How about it? The old fox is very hospitable and extended an invitation to Liu. If that is the case, then I will disturb you. Liu chuckled and agreed very naturally, because the valley of the West Mountain is one of his destinations. Chapter 182. He followed behind the old cunning fox. Not long after, a secluded valley appeared in front of Liu. This secluded valley was surrounded by mountains, and there was only one canyon that led to the outside world. Due to the obstruction of the mountains, the cold current could not invade. The entire valley was covered in green grass and lush trees. Compared to the flying snow outside, it was as if they had stepped into another world. Squeak, 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 squeak. In the valley, a group of snow-white foxes were running and jumping around happily. They were carefree and happy. Brother, there are so many beautiful foxes. Seeing these playful little foxes, little Ting Ting immediately cheered and jumped for joy. You dare to slack off? Walking into the valley, the old cunning fox saw the scene in front of him and was instantly furious. He glared at the group of playful foxes and scolded. How long have I been out? You all are playing truant? Don't you all want to study? Squeak. Hearing the old cunning foxes scolding, these playful foxes were frightened and screamed. They quickly stood up and walked over dejectedly. Look at you all, still using your hands to crawl on the ground? I have taught you all for so long, and you still can't change your walking posture? If you don't change your beastly habits, how can you improve? The old cunning fox scolded and sighed, looking as if he expected better from them. This is really interesting. Seeing this scene, Liu only felt that it was absurd and unimaginable. A group of foxes who treated themselves as humans. Their words and actions were similar to humans. It was really, the boundless universe had all kinds of strange things. The younger generation is naughty and mischievous. We have made a fool of ourselves. The old cunning fox's expression was somewhat awkward. It was as if Liu and little Ting Ting had seen this, which made him lose face. My surname is Tu. My name is Yuan. Courtesy name is Yenshu. The old cunning fox bowed to Liu. May I know your names? I am Liu. This is my sister Jiangting. Although Liu felt that the old cunning fox's actions were a little funny, he was also curious about this old cunning fox who wanted to be human. Good name. Hearing Liu's introduction, the old cunning fox's eyes lit up. He shook his head and praised. The hesitant one follows the nature of things. The old cunning fox began to show off his knowledge. Heaven and earth move in accordance with the law. Thus the sun and moon do not change, and the four seasons do not change. The saints move in accordance with the law. Thus the punishment is clear and the people obey. The time of you is of great importance. Liu was tongue-tied. He had no idea what the old fox was talking about. At this moment, Liu couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Fuck. I'm from Dark Parasol Academy at any rate, and my Green Lotus clone has become the founding ancestor of the Confucian sect. Yet I've actually lost to a fox in terms of knowledge. How could you be willing to lose face like this? He had to act tough. If he didn't have the conditions to act tough, he would create the conditions to act tough. System, according to the old fox's words, find some sentences with similar meanings. After he plundered the accumulation of Dark Parasol Academy for 10,000 years, Liu refused to believe that he was even inferior to a fox. The system instantly responded to Liu's request and sent him a bunch of awkward-sounding articles. Elder 2, you're too kind. I don't dare to accept your praise. With confidence in his heart, Liu was able to deal with it with ease. Smiling modestly at the old fox, Liu said, One should act in accordance with the law and move in accordance with the law. Moving in accordance with the law, the heaven and earth are the same. Although I have this ambition, my morals are lacking. I'm really ashamed. Little brother, you're indeed a knowledgeable person. The old fox looked at Liu with eyes full of admiration and envy. Liu said something that even he didn't understand, but the effect was surprisingly good. The human race is indeed blessed by the heavens. The old fox praised with envy. Little brother, you're only 16 or 17 years old, right? You're so young, but your knowledge is so extraordinary. Us foxes are still lacking intelligence at 16 or 17 years old. We can't even recognize a few words. Sigh, you're comparing me to a bunch of foxes? What the hell? The corner of Liu's mouth twitched. He didn't know what to say. Luckily, the old fox didn't continue this topic. He brought Liu and Xiao Tingting to the cave in the valley. Behind them was a group of foxes. They stood on their hind legs and wobbled as they followed behind. Walking into the cave, Liu placed rows of tall bookshelves. The bookshelves were filled with all kinds of books. Liu took a glance and realized that although the books were placed neatly on the bookshelves, they were still in a mess. They weren't categorized and were just placed randomly. However, there was something that Liu needed here. This group of foxes took the Great Zen Temple's books. They didn't even know that they brought the past Amitabha Sutra over. A smile appeared on Liu's face as he ordered the system in his mind. System, scan all the books in the cave. Pay special attention to the past Amitabha Sutra hidden in a martial scripture. Don't miss it. A formless wave swept across the cave silently. All the books in the cave were recorded in the system's database. Among them was the past Amitabha Sutra that Liu paid special attention to. Little brother, our White Fox clan lived near the Great Zen Temple in the central region. After listening to the Great Zen Temple's monks reciting scriptures every day, we understood the principles and learned how to read and write. The old fox pointed at the books in the cave and smiled. After the Great Zen Temple was destroyed by the Great Qian dynasty, we collected some books and brought them here. Great Zen Temple in the central region? So Tu Lao's clan had such a history. Liu pretended to be surprised and praised. He then asked the old cunning fox, since he came out from the Great Zen Temple, I believe Tu Lao has also cultivated some skills, right? How can it be considered divine abilities? The old cunning fox led Liu and Xiao Ting into the cave and sat down. He picked up the teapot and poured a cup of tea for the two of them. The foreign species cultivation is also to learn the cultivation methods of the human race. Our fox clan needs to develop intelligence, read, and understand the principles. Only then can we learn the path of cultivation. The human race is the spirit of all living things, the pride of the heavens. The old fox sighed. For us foreign species, only by cultivating the path of the soul, transcending the mortal world, and ascending to the ghost immortal realm, can we disintegrate from our demon body and reincarnate as a human. However, the ghost immortal realm is extremely difficult. Oh, I know very little about the path of the soul. Would Tu Lao please explain it to me? Liu was very interested in the path of the soul in this world. Naturally, he wanted to listen to the native Tu Yuan's explanation. Little brother must be joking. Tu Yuan smiled and shook his head. Little brother's chi and blood are like the blazing sun. Your martial cultivation is unfathomable. Why would you need this old man to explain? I really want to ask Tu Lao for advice. I don't know anything about the path of the soul. Liu explained to Tu Yuan. Of course, he knew that his chi and blood were extremely powerful. When he broke through to the next realm in Xiaofeng's world, his chi and blood shone brightly. The purple gold flame was so strong that even the rocks in the cave were burned into lava. At this moment, if it wasn't for the fact that his chi and blood were integrated into one, it wouldn't have leaked out anymore. Just the aura that leaked out would have shaken these foxes to death. Even though Li Yu had restrained his chi and blood, the strong nature of the innate divine bodies, Tao embryo, still made Li Yu's chi and blood look like the blazing sun. If little brother is interested, I will show you my incompetence. Tu Yuan didn't ask if Li Yu really didn't know anything. He followed Li Yu's words and continued. The cultivation of the soul is actually the cultivation of one soul. There are a total of 10 realms. Concentration, shell emergence, night travel, day travel, driving objects, manifestation, possession, thunder trial, and sun spirit. Speaking of this, the old fox pointed to the bookshelf in the cave behind him and said, Among the books here, there are some books on the cultivation of the soul. If little brother is interested, you can take a look. Thank you very much. Liu laughed and cupped his hands to thank Tu Yuan. However, he was laughing his heart. These books are already in my hands. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.